to gbnews.uk. Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious.
News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
Very good morning to you. It's 6 o'clock. It's Saturday, the 22nd of January. This is Breakfast on GB News with Stephen and Anne.
And we're live across the whole of the UK on both your TV and your radio, whether you're watching us in York or you're listening to us in Carmarthen or even watching us on YouTube in Glencoe in Scotland.
Yeah, wherever you are, you can take us with you. And coming up for you this morning,
the Conservative backbencher who accused Downing Street of trying to blackmail MPs is to meet police to discuss his allegations. William Wragg said he'll provide officers from Scotland Yard with examples of bullying and intimidation. The Prime Minister insists he has seen no evidence of blackmail in his party.
Well, meanwhile, the Times reports Boris Johnson has reinstated the team he used for his Tory leadership bid in an attempt to save his premiership. They say the PM is drawing up a spreadsheet to record which Conservative MPs are loyal, which are wavering, and which are determined to oust him.
Moving away from politics, we catch up with British soldier Jack Jarvis, who's rowing across the Atlantic. He set off in December in memory of his late grandfather, who passed away from a brain tumour. Jack is currently halfway, and our reporter Ellie Costello managed to somehow get a signal and speak to him.
This is pretty good going, I think.
What a time to choose, December, rowing the Atlantic. I mean, that has to be cold, doesn't it?
Well, crackers. They're crackers, these people.
Yeah, I know.
There you go.
Extraordinary.
Don't forget, anything you want to talk about, we would love to hear from you this morning. gbviews at gbnews.uk or drop us a tweet at gbnews. Now, you're a little bit croaky this morning.
I am. I don't know why. It's tiredness. Mick does that, isn't it?
Well, you need a cup of tea.
Well, I'm having a coffee, actually.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Actually, I had a coffee when I first got in this morning, but I've got tea now. I do like a cup of tea, but I'm a northerner, so I've got to like tea. So we put a tweet out last night asking, when you're having a cup of tea, do you put milk or tea in first? And I know it's a bit of a perennial question.
Yeah, but people get very heated about it if you do it wrong. If you're making somebody a cup of tea, you have to ask them, don't you? Out of politeness.
I've never
Are you a
done
milk
that.
first person?
Oh, I've never done that. Maybe I should.
Well, if you're making somebody a cup of tea, I think you should, because people get very upset if it's not just right.
When people ask me how I like my tea, I just tend to say hot and wet.
Yeah, but do you really? I'll bet you're more pernickety than that. I mean, if
like
somebody asks me if I like a cup of tea, I insist on making it myself, because I know how I like it.
Yeah. No, that's
If
true.
it's not right, then it just doesn't work.
It's interesting because a lot of people... There's been quite a bit of Twitter response on this one, and a few people saying, as David does, what a ridiculous question. But then he goes on to say...
Exactly. He has a view,
He
you
has
see.
a view. Depends on the teapot or tea bag, and if it's bone china teacup or a mug, pot and cup, then milk first, mug and bag, then bag first, let brew in the milk. Fats in the milk block the holes in the bag,
I've
stopping
never
the
heard
tea
that
from
before.
brewing properly. Well, I've never heard the thing about fats.
Fats
but
in the milk block holes in the bag.
But I have been told that it does if you put... I've been told before that it does stop your tea brewing if you put the milk in first and then a bag.
Well, that's only because the milk obviously puts down the temperature. It reduces the temperature in the cup, doesn't it?
Yeah, no.
So, no,
that's fine.
if you're brewing, you've got to not put the milk in first. Linda Morris has said milk first, because do it while waiting for the tea to brew in the pot.
That's a very good point.
No, yeah, but that's if you use a pot, isn't
Yes, yeah. But you see, tea out of a pot is better.
it? It is. There's no doubt about that. But how many people do that anymore? Do you have a teapot? Probably not.
I do.
Do you?
Yeah.
Do you use it?
Not very
No, it's
often.
just there on the shelf,
Yeah,
isn't
it
it?
looks pretty, though.
Yeah.
Elias says, you see, you're all harsh this morning. Those who put milk in first should not be in charge of a kettle.
I quite agree, absolutely. Jambo says tea needs to be first as milk cools down the water. There you are, you see, meaning that the tannins in the tea don't produce the same flavour. If you go milk first, you need a psychological examination or drink coffee.
I think that's a little bit harsh, Jambo.
But you've got to have boiling water, and that's something when you go abroad. They don't understand, do
no.
they? And they say, oh, you can ask somebody to bring you hot water for your tea. You don't need it hot. You want it just on the boil, don't you, to make proper tea?
Well, yeah, do you know, I had a cup of tea, I can't think where it was, over here, not that long ago, and someone they brought out a cup and a teapot with water in and a bag on the side.
Yeah, no, that won't
What's the
work.
point of that? To sit there for 5 minutes to brew.
But it won't, will it? Because it's not boiled. It's got to be really boiling water.
Yeah.
People just don't understand.
Maybe we should ditch the milk altogether. Consigliere, oh, that's very fancy, says tea, lemon, maybe honey, full stop.
Oh, do you know, that sounds very nice. I could do with that right now. Swirled with a cinnamon stick. Like you
Yeah.
have when you have a cold or something.
Yeah, sounds quite nice. But you
sounds
see,
very
I like an Earl Grey, and I get fed up of when you ask for an Earl Grey in a cafe,
Yeah.
and they don't bring you any milk. I still want milk with
no,
it.
you're not meant to have milk in Earl Grey.
It's
are
nice,
you?
though.
See how controversial the whole subject is. Never mind politics. This is bad enough, isn't it?
Keep your thoughts coming through.
Yeah.
gbviews@gbnews.uk or tweet us @gbnews.
Our top story now, and the Tory backbencher who accused Number 10 of trying to blackmail MPs is to meet with the police to discuss his allegations.
Yeah, Will Wragg said he'll be meeting a Scotland Yard detective in the House of Commons early next week, raising the prospect that police could open an investigation. Well, this is what the MP had to say about the behaviour of Downing Street aides.
It is not their function to breach the ministerial code in threatening to withdraw investments from Members of Parliament's constituencies which are funded from the public purse. Reports to me and others of members of staff at Number 10 Downing Street, special advisers, government ministers and others encouraging the publication of stories in the press seeking to embarrass those who they suspect of lacking confidence in the Prime Minister is similarly unacceptable.
Well, in response to these claims, the Prime Minister said he is not aware of any intimidation.
I've seen no evidence, heard no evidence to support any of those allegations.
Well, Number 10 has said it would not be opening its own inquiry into the claims, even though both Conservative and opposition MPs have called for one.
The PM spokesman said it would only open an inquiry if it was presented with evidence to back up Mr Ragg's claims.
Well, meanwhile, he told the Daily Telegraph that he would outline several examples of bullying and intimidation, and in some cases, apparently, these threats involving public money.
Meanwhile, The Times reports that Boris Johnson has reinstated the team he used for his Tory leadership bid in an attempt to save his premiership.
They say the PM's drawing up a spreadsheet to record which Conservative MPs are loyal, which are wavering, and just who is determined to oust him. I mean, in some senses, whether you think the Prime Minister should stay or go, drawing up a spreadsheet of who backs you and who doesn't is...
Sensible. Isn't that what happens all the time? Isn't that? And that's what the whips... That's the job of the whips as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's why you have them.
But, of course, should the whips then be threatening, as is claimed...
They always have done, haven't they?
Yeah, but threatening things like school closures or, Ben Howlett, who was an MP from 2015 to 2017 in Bath, claiming that he was threatened with losing money for a road project, a ring road project.
But don't you think it's... I would have thought these things have always happened. They say, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. You look after us in this crisis and we'll make sure you get what you want in your constituency. I would have thought it's a bit naive to be shocked by that sort of claim.
Well, I would agree. But, of course, it's coming out now because people are using it or wanting the PM to go on.
Yeah. And are we all going to go, oh, goodness me? I don't think that most of the public would be shocked. In fact, let's ask, are you shocked by any of these sort of claims? Because I would have thought it was just something we all assume goes on in the world of politics anyway.
But what is happening now in politics with all of this is the knives are out for the Prime Minister. And under those circumstances, if you support Boris or not, can he actually continue when there's all this pressure going on? Because it detracts from anything the government is trying to do, doesn't it?
It does, but how long can it last? I wonder. Did you watch Prime Minister's questions?
Oh, he came out fighting.
I thought it...
I
started to feel sympathetic for him because I just thought, this is bullying. It was like they were all out to get him, and it was really horrible. And I know, again, that's probably just the level of politics. It was always like that, I guess.
Yeah.
But, they were rounding on him.
Yes.
It was unedifying, really, wasn't it?
But at what point... if it was me, I'd just say... Oh,
I'd have burst into tears and walked out.
I've had enough now.
Yes, exactly.
But
that's the life he wants. He wants to be Prime Minister. They all want to be politicians. They all want power.
Does he want to be Prime Minister that much?
Yeah, I think
wonder.
he probably does.
What do you think he should actually do? Get in touch. Let us know this morning. In the meantime, let's bring you up to date then with all the top stories. And the US and Russia have held frank talks to try to calm the situation over Ukraine. The US Secretary of State Antony Blinken met the Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov for discussions of what he said was a critical moment. Reports say no breakthrough looked imminent as fears increase over a possible Russian invasion.
US police say the fatal shooting of a 31-year-old British astrophysicist in his bed appeared to be the result of reckless discharge. Dr. Matthew Wilson was found dead after being shot in an apartment block in Georgia whilst visiting his loved ones.
High street pharmacists will now be able to refer obese people to a free online NHS weight loss programme. Previously, obese patients in England had to see their GP before they could access the 12-week plan. Those with either high blood pressure, diabetes, that'll be type 2 diabetes, or a BMI over 30 are being encouraged to speak to their pharmacists.
A new survey suggests that 1 in 3 drivers are unaware of changes to road rules, which are aimed at protecting cyclists and pedestrians. 33% of motorists said they didn't know the highway code is being revamped, including 4% who have no intention of looking at the details. The revised highway code comes into force next week.
Idris Elba is said to be part of the conversation over who will replace Daniel Craig as the next James Bond. Speaking on a podcast, the producer of the Bond films, Barbara Broccoli, recognised that a lot of fans want to see Idris in a tux and saying that he is a magnificent actor. I have to say, I've been a fan of Idris being Bond for a while.
Me too, absolutely.
Because he's got
it, hasn't he? He's just got what it takes.
And especially as Daniel Craig made Bond a bit grittier.
Yeah.
And I think Idris can carry
I like that phrase. They say he's part of the conversation about who will be the next Bond.
But is he getting too old? That's the thing. Does Bond have to be a bit younger?
He's not that. He doesn't look old.
He's in his 50s, isn't he?
Is he?
I would
Good Lord.
think.
Appalling. Absolutely dreadful.
Well, no, but you know what I mean.
Should retire at once.
So the stuff you have to do in Bond.
Yes, well, maybe he'd be a more, I don't know, Sean Connery type of Bond.
Yeah, maybe. But I'm all for it. I really like it.
Me too. I think he's perfect. It's nice to hear he's part of the conversation.
Yes, let us know what you think about that one. Now, since last summer, GBNews has been following British soldier Jack Jarvis as he embarked on a challenge of epic proportions.
Yeah, he's rowing across the Atlantic, taking a route that's never been attempted solo before. If he does it, he'll be a Guinness World Record holder.
He set off in December and Jack is almost halfway. He's being pushed to his absolute limits mentally and physically, but it's something he's doing in memory of his late grandfather who passed away in 2007 from a brain tumour.
Our reporter Ellie Costello decided to catch up with him whilst he was out in the middle of the ocean.
Nothing but the bright blue sea. Jack Jarvis is almost halfway on his 4,500 nautical mile challenge across the Atlantic. He's rowing solo, something that's never been done before. He rang me from his satellite phone.
Hi Jack, how are you?
Hello Ellie, yeah, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. This is so weird, you're in the middle of the ocean.
I literally am in the middle of the ocean, yeah.
How is your morale? Where's your mental place right now?
Morale and my mental state is good. Morale's high. Even though, we've had setbacks and it looks like it's going to take a little bit longer, I knew it would be tough. Hence why no one's done it before, so there's no surprises there. But yeah, morale and my mental state is all good.
Jack also recorded this message for us from inside the boat.
Good morning. So day 49, week 7 update. The rowing has been tough this week, but then it's been tough for the past 7 weeks. So I'm going to talk about another challenge I've had to face. Since Christmas, I've been on a biscuit and hazelnut spread ban. What I mean by this is I won't open a new packet or tub until I hit the halfway point. It's basically because I realised, because the voyage was going to take longer than 90 days, I had to ration it, otherwise I was going to run out. So I've had to be really disciplined, which is good, because then the second half of the row I'll have plenty of treats. However, it's taken a lot of mental fortitude not to devour a packet of dark chocolate digestives when you've had a bad day on the oars. It's not all doom and gloom though on Biscuitless Budgie. Managed to grab my second bit of plastic out the ocean. Really happy to collect that bit of rubbish. Jack Jarvis's one-man ocean clean-up continues. Probably saved 10, 20 whales just for that one bit of plastic. David Attenborough, that one's for you, mate. And as always, I'll keep rowing, collecting any rubbish that I can, and I'll see you all soon, hopefully.
Jack is undertaking this challenge to raise money for charity. He's currently raised about £15,000 for Brains Trust, a charity that is really close to his heart.
So happy and proud that I've managed to raise that much for Brains Trust. Now, like I said, my granddad passed away of a brain tumour, so it's a charity close to my heart, and hopefully I can raise a load more. So the target's 50 grand, so we're well on our way. There's a massive thank you to everyone who's donated. Absolutely blown away by the generosity. So yeah, just a thank you, and looking forward to seeing everyone when I'm back home.
Ellie Costello, GB News.
It's got to be tough, that. I don't know why you'd want to do it.
Especially at this time of year.
Well, yeah.
Now, maybe it is the best time of year to do it, but you would think it would be absolutely extraordinarily cold.
And why is he eating dark chocolate digestives and not milk chocolate?
No, I don't know. I thought there was a reason, but I can't remember what it is. Maybe there's more energy in dark chocolate.
Oh,
Is there? More calories?
Yeah, milk chocolate are nicer.
I quite agree. Dunked in a nice cup of tea as well.
Ooh, that's the way. You would dunker or not.
Oh, that's another one.
Talk about tea and biscuits all morning.
I know. It's a very British thing, I think, isn't it?
It's lovely.
Wax lyrical about tea.
Anyway, look, we've got more serious stuff to come for you, including how does the situation developing in Ukraine affect us here in Britain? We're going to be asking a retired Major General who served as a senior officer in Iraq.
Good morning. Dry but drab kind of sums up the weekend for most of us. It will be fairly cloudy, but a few places seeing a bit of blue sky. And say most of us are not going to see much rain thanks to high pressure. Now, the main exception to that dry story will be northwest Scotland. There's a weakening weather fronts which will bring at times some rain to particularly the Highlands, Argyll and Bute through the day today. But even that's pushing south, so Caithness, Sutherland and Northern Isles may well brighten up. We'll see some sunny spells across eastern England, eastern Scotland and across the south. There'll be at times some breaks in the clouds, reveal a bit of blue sky, but for most it will just stay cloudy but dry with light winds, certainly across the south. Always quite breezy across the north, but it is here where we'll see the top temperatures, 11, maybe 12 Celsius if we see some brightness, say on the Moray Firth. Elsewhere, a little warmer than yesterday, 8-9 degrees, but of course, most of us won't have the sunshine. Through this evening, we'll keep a lot of cloud, which will again help prevent a frost in most places. Where skies stay clear, parts of northeast England, eastern Scotland, again, temperatures could, at least for a time, drop down to freezing. Still a brisk breeze in the northwest and a bit of drizzly rain here, but for most it stays dry. And again, as I said, temperatures generally holding up, certainly in towns and cities, a few degrees above zero. On to Sunday, and it's a very similar story to Saturday. Again, some drizzle likely in the northwest during tomorrow, but apart from that, and maybe the odd spot over hills elsewhere, most places dry and cloudy. But again, some breaks likely in the cloud, parts of northeast Wales, northeast England, and again, northeast Scotland may well see some sunny spells. And if we do, temperatures again could get to double digits, but for most we're looking at 8 or 9 Celsius. This area of high pressure is sticking around through the weekend and indeed into next week. Again, weather fronts may bring some patchy rain at times, particularly to the northwest, but for most, this area of high pressure promising to keep more dry weather across the country well into next week.
Hello there, I'm Eamon.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
Welcome back, 6:21. Very good morning to you if you're listening to us on GB News Radio this morning. I wonder what we sound like on the radio.
Very similar to how we sound here, I suppose.
I wonder if we have a bit more depth and gravitas.
But I've been doing that during the week. I've been listening to Isabel and Eamon and just listening while I'm getting on with other things. And it
really works.
Well, it works, yeah. It's a brilliant idea. Why hasn't anyone thought of it before? It's a great idea.
It's nice that you can watch Breakfast with Stephen and Anna, then take us out and about with you when you have to leave the house.
That's right, yeah. OK, lots of people getting in touch with very steamy views about how to drink your tea and whether milk goes in first. And, I mean, really getting very boiled up about it.
What have you been thinking about?
McDiggity says, would you put milk in a teapot? There is only one reasonable answer to your question. Anything else is ...
Yeah, Gabe Wynn says the idea that anyone would put milk in the cup before tea is preposterous. Well, I don't know if it's preposterous. They used to do it. They say, don't they, that back in the day when people had fine china,
yes,
you put the milk in first because otherwise the hot tea would crack the cup.
Oh, that would have to be very fine china, wouldn't it? And there's another one, tea out of a big mug like this, does it taste the same
No.
as tea out of a posh cup?
It's nicer in a posh cup.
It is nicer in a posh cup.
Yeah.
There are a lot of... You can buy these little individual posh cups now, cups and saucers,
can
for
you?
people who love their tea. Yeah.
Oh.
Very, very fine china. And it's a nice Christmas present, actually.
It's my birthday in a couple of months.
Is it?
Then.
OK.
Just saying.
Work on that.
Now, have you got one of those Amazon virtual assistants? I don't like to say the name.
No, because it sets them off.
At home. Drives me mad when I'm at home and anyone says it.
Well, me too. I got so fed up, I unplugged it and put it in a drawer.
Oh.
There it is, just there in a drawer.
Oh.
Because also she was putting me in touch with people I didn't want.
Oh, really?
You know, I'd say, so-and-so, play me some music or something, and she'd sort of say, ringing Anne Higginbottom or something.
Oh.
She'd ring people that I never meant to ring and things like that.
Oh, mine doesn't do that, but mine's a man now.
You can do that, can you? You can change
it
gender.
to a man.
Well, I didn't... Well, there you are, and I'm sure you could probably change accents and everything. I change my sat-nav to French sometimes, just to keep the mind working.
Really?
Yeah. Tournez à droite. Yeah, all of it.
Do you get lost a lot?
Yeah. It doesn't like certain names of, tournez à Leicester, and it can't say Bicester. It's all Leicester.
Yeah.
But, no, it's a very good idea. You can change your sat-nav to a different language, and it just keeps you sharp.
So we know where you go shopping then, at Bicester Village.
Yeah, I do. I love Bicester Village, yes.
Anyway, look, Amazon's virtual assistant, she who will not be named, went down yesterday for thousands of users in Europe, which meant if you've got an alarm clock set, which is how I get up in the morning for this...
No.
That you couldn't turn it off.
So you did manage to get up, though, today?
Oh, this morning, 'cause it was working all right this morning.
But not yesterday?
Yesterday, I didn't have an alarm set because I wasn't working, but I did ask her or him what time it was.
What's his name?
Still...
Well, that's a silly name for a man, isn't it?
No, well...
But you have to, because otherwise it wouldn't work. You can't change the name.
You can change it to Amazon, Echo, or Computer.
Computer sounds quite good, a bit Star Trek.
It is a bit Star Trek. I think that's why they did it, yeah.
Anyway, I can see that it was a bit of a problem not working. Over 8,000 complaints, apparently, were reported in Britain. But issues with her were also reported in countries including Ireland, Germany, Italy and Spain.
Yes, but of course it's not just her, is it? It follows hundreds of Ring doorbells. That's a brand owned by Amazon. They didn't work in the UK because of an outage at a data centre as well recently.
Our whole society is going to collapse one day because we're all so reliant on these things.
Yes, but it's nice when it works, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's not when it doesn't.
But it doesn't not work very often. That's the thing.
Yeah, you wait till the apocalypse comes. We won't be able to do anything. Can you make a radio? I always say this, can you make a radio? Every child in school should be taught how to make a radio.
Do one. Were they called cat's whiskers?
Yeah,
radios,
something like that, yes.
Where you sort of wound copper around a jam jar or something.
That's right, and then you plug it into a potato, and it works off the energy in a potato. Something like that, anyway. But, I mean, when the apocalypse comes and everything goes down, then we're all going to be stuck. And only a very few of us will know how to make a radio. I don't know why I've got into this topic. It's one of those ones that I get steaming about.
I'll miss my alarm to come here, but then if we can't broadcast, it won't matter.
No, nobody will notice.
No, you'd be you sat here with a potato and a
they'll be at home getting out their Encyclopedia Britannica, trying to figure out how to make a radio. Oh, well, there you go. I tell you what,
I'm going to bring some potatoes in for you tomorrow. You can do a demo.
Do you think we could get somebody in to show us how to do that? That would be fun.
Really good.
You know, it's like those science lessons you used to have if you had a very good science teacher at school. They would do these funny little experiments and show you how to make a radio with a potato and a piece of string.
Love it.
Something like that.
I love it. To matters more serious,
yes,
though.
Yeah, well, very serious for some people, because Adele has cancelled her long-awaited Las Vegas residency one day, just 24 hours before her first show was due. Her reason was that the show ain't ready, she said.
Yes, but is it just COVID and delivery delays, which is what she said, that are to blame? Because gossip columnist Roger Freeman insists the stripped-back nature of the show, it was just Adele with an orchestra, no pyrotechnics, no dancers, means the excuse "we ain't ready" doesn't hold water. He said, let's face it, this is only 2 shows a weekend. If the show wasn't ready, it could be postponed a couple of weeks, but they've scrapped the whole thing. So it's not just a matter of not being ready. That doesn't make sense. Well,
doesn't. She looked very upset with the message that she recorded to her fans. But so many really big deal fans, there you are, which she's delivering that message to it. She said how upset she is, it just ain't ready. But there are people who've flown all the way there for that concert. Some of them, it was the trip of a lifetime going to see her in concert in Las Vegas. And they've got there and, they're almost, queuing outside the theatre and it ain't ready, so it's not going to happen. Can you imagine if you spent a fortune? No, they won't, exactly. It is not, the show must go on. I thought that was the adage.
I can't understand why she's not just sort of, it wouldn't help those people who were there for this weekend, but just put it back a week.
Or why doesn't she just stand there and sing? She can do it. She's got a brilliant voice. It'd be different if the excuse was that she's lost her voice or something, but that wasn't it. You'd think.
I wonder if there is something else going on. I don't know.
She does suffer from stage fright, apparently.
Does she?
Yes, apparently, very badly. And a lot of the sort of music people are saying that she is a recording artist. She doesn't like going on tour. She doesn't particularly like going on stage. She gets real stage fright. I'm not saying that that's what it is, but it's interesting.
If she doesn't like doing it, I wonder what persuaded her to do that.
Well, about £15 million, I think.
Oh, yeah, £500,000 a weekend. Funny that.
Although she doesn't need it, does she?
No, she's minted. She's absolutely minted. But it's one of those things, you can be a bit critical, but she's a huge talent and people love her.
Yes. Well, that's why I'm saying, why she doesn't just walk out and sing. Would be,
That'd be great.
Sinatra used to do it, just walk out on a stage and sing, and he invented the Las Vegas Residency, really, didn't he?
Yeah, it's huge money, though, for something like that. But anyway, they won't be very happy with her.
No.
Putting her up in a £30,000 or $30,000 a week
with her own private
apartment.
plane. They provide, it's Caesar's Palace, isn't it?
Yeah.
They provide a plane for her so she can whiz back to Los Angeles whenever she wants to.
Oh. Nice.
45 minutes to Los Angeles, apparently it is, in the private plane.
We've done something wrong, Anne. And I've got the voice of an angel.
Exactly, yeah. You could have gone in her stead.
Anyway, I'll save you that little treat. Stay with us, though. We've got plenty more to come. We'll take you through the papers. We've got a lively pair with us this morning, so don't go anywhere.
Hello there, I'm Eamon.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
.32, this is Breakfast with Stephen and Anne on your TV and on your radios, of course, this morning.
Shall we take a look at today's front pages, first of all? The Times writes that Prime Minister Boris Johnson has reinstated his Tory leadership team to save his premiership, as fears grow that a no-confidence vote is inevitable.
Well, Boris Johnson is facing calls to ensure that all evidence on Downing Street parties is published alongside the results of the Sue Gray inquiry. That's on the front of The Guardian for you today.
Daily Express reports a wonder pill that fights both coronavirus and flu, and it could be the next exciting secret weapon in the war on viruses.
For The Eye, it says the government is actively considering a pause to mandatory coronavirus vaccines for NHS workers over fears that mass sackings will damage patient care.
The Daily Whale, well, I suppose you could call it the Daily Whale. The Daily Mail reports MPs and business leaders have said a planned hike in national insurance this April must be stopped to help families survive a cost of living crisis.
The Attorney-General is wanting an injunction against the BBC to prevent the broadcaster allegedly identifying a spy working overseas. That's in the Telegraph today.
And then the Daily Mirror pays tribute to what it calls the end of a rock legend. That's after Bat Out of Hell singer Meatloaf died of coronavirus, they say.
The Daily Star says hardman Russian President Vladimir Putin has scared off extraterrestrials from visiting Earth by being too rough.
Yes, there you go.
What?
Well, there you go.
What?
War of the Worlds, it says. Financial Times. From the sublime to the... it reports that Netflix lost £35 billion in market value on Wall Street's opening bell. Wow.
Yeah, it was down on expectations for new subscribers, wasn't it? But only by about 300,000.
So why is it
I don't know why it's been hit so badly. They got 8.2 million in the last quarter, and they were hoping for 8.5, and for some reason that's wiped 35 billion off them.
I thought Netflix was just a complete, rising success.
Yeah.
Still, yeah. The amount of times I watch it, anyway.
Well, you're keeping it going.
Absolutely hooked.
Mind you, me too, with The Witcher. Have you seen The Witcher?
I think that's a boys' thing, The Witcher.
Is it? Oh, it's fantastic. Anyway, let's go through the papers in a bit more detail with the journalist and author Nikki Hodgson and the broadcaster David Hamilton. Good to see you both.
Hi.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I might get whiplash looking at you both like this, but anyway,
Wimbledon.
We'll see how we get on. Let's have a look at the front of The Guardian, should we? We've got to reveal all evidence of Partygate, Nikki.
Yeah, OK, so Partygate, I know everybody's sick of hearing about it, but this is an interesting take on it this morning, because basically what The Guardian is reporting is that when Sue Gray finally publishes that report in this week, we won't see the emails and any of the documents that are giving the evidence about what actually went on. We'll just get a summary of the findings. And the opposition, obviously Labour, is very invested in getting these emails, etc., published because the devil will be in the detail. So, it's just whether this will actually happen or not. Can we get all this other stuff published as well? And obviously journalists want that published because that's how they're going to write stories about it.
I wonder how she's coping, Sue Gray. When you think, the eyes of the world are on her, aren't they?
Absolutely, yes. Britain. Taking a long time, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, but, all will be revealed very shortly.
Are you bored by it now?
Yes, I got extremely bored by Djokovic. I got very bored by that story, and but it's actually made history because he is actually the first professional sportsman to be banned from a major tournament for not taking drugs.
Oh!
That's an interesting way of...
Think about it.
That is a very interesting way. You've been working on that.
Yeah, I have, but I did get bored with that. And things do bang on a bit, don't they, sometimes? So let's get them done and dusted, yeah.
Well, it'd be interesting to see what gets done and dusted with the PM. I mean, the Times are saying this morning that he's not going to be done and dusted. He's beefing up his leadership team.
Yes,
I think that's going to make a difference.
I think that's his way out, isn't it, really? But, of course, if he does that, he'll lose some more friends, won't he? Because if he gets rid of people, there'll be more people who won't be voting for him. So it is an intriguing story, isn't it?
Do you think his time's up?
It's enough to make him sweat. It's a good thing he isn't Prince Andrew, isn't it?
Well, he wouldn't be able to sweat then, would he?
Yeah.
No. Look, David, I know you're obviously on the music side of things. You're quite keen to talk about Adele. What do you make of what is going on with Adele?
I find that extraordinary, really. I mean, I remember the old adage, the show must go on. And obviously it doesn't apply in her case. I feel very sorry for the people who have spent a fortune on tickets and travel and hotels and can't get their money back. And I think if it was going to happen, I think she could have decided a little bit earlier. I think to do it at the last minute it is really very, very unfair. And I don't think you can completely blame it on COVID. I know a lot of things have been cancelled because of that. But I think, yeah, as an old pro, us old pros think the show goes on, don't we?
It's a bit of a funny story, isn't it? Because I feel like there's something that we're not being told
Yes,
about it.
that's- yeah.
It doesn't quite add up. And I sort of was thinking about, when she did the ITV special and she started one song and then had to restart it. And it made me wonder, is it because she's having nerves or problems with getting her performance together? I don't know.
I mean, she does, as Anne was saying earlier on, she does suffer from stage fright.
Yeah,
doesn't
so maybe just the idea of doing Caesar's Palace is just too much. I mean, it'd be understandable that you'd feel overwhelmed by it.
But wouldn't she be? I mean, she's this sort of honest type. She's upfront about things, isn't she? I mean, if she was struggling with that, wouldn't she say, rather than just cancelling the whole...
But isn't saying my show's not ready, because that'd be a bit of a cover, wouldn't it? If she wasn't ready, then the show wouldn't be ready. I don't know. I'm speculating.
I think there is another side of this as well, which is that, I've been to Vegas and the shows there are very spectacular. I saw Dean Martin with a 40-piece orchestra behind him. Another show called Hallelujah Hollywood, where people fly out over the audience. The acts come flying out on wires. And I think for her just to sing, some people have said it would be enough if she just sang the songs. But I think she probably wanted to give them a bit more of a show. So in fairness to her, I think that may be part of the...
You saw Dean Martin?
Yes.
That's quite something.
Oh, wonderful. He came out with a drink in his hand. I was watching with Ernie Wise. We were there.
What?
There in the audience. He came out
Sorry,
with...
hold on.
Yeah.
So you're name dropping now.
We were
Ernie Wise, you were out with Ernie Wise?
Yeah, well, we were on a trip with Thames Television. We were selling British programmes to the American market. And as a treat at the end of the week, they took us to Las Vegas. And we went to see Dean Martin at the MGM Grand. He came up with a drink in his hand and he looked at the orchestra behind him and he looked at the audience and he said, "What are these people doing in my bedroom?" So Ernie Wise said to me, he said he doesn't drink. He said it's a gimmick. He said nobody could have that impeccable timing if he drank.
Wow.
But what an act.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, I don't know if I'd be more impressed with the act or the company.
That's amazing,
Something like
isn't
that.
it? He was one of the Rat Pack, wasn't he?
He was one of the Rat Pack, yes.
Him, Sammy Davis Jr., Sinatra.
Yeah, there are a few others.
And they used to do a residency at Las Vegas, and that must have been quite something.
Well, the shows were very spectacular, so I can see from her point of view that perhaps she thought just singing the songs was not enough. But I think she's let a lot of people down. I wonder if they'll still buy her records after this.
Yeah, I mean, there's a huge amount of pressure. I mean, she's only, early 30s?
She's
34,
very young still. I think people forget because she has this kind of old head on, She's very wise, isn't she? And the emotional depth of what she sings about, just she could be at any age, actually, in many ways. But I don't know, people absolutely adore her. So I think the fact that she did a personal video and didn't hide the fact she was upset will probably... it'll probably placate.
I know, but on the other hand, I've been seeing in the news bulletins in the last 24 hours people in tears because they were going to Las Vegas, holiday of a lifetime, going to see, and they were going there to see Adele. And just in the last minute to hear that that their dream is shattered, actually, and they spent all that money going
Some
there.
of the tickets were incredibly expensive, apparently up to £22,000. Who's got £22,000 to go to a show? It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. Loving it, but I suppose they'll get their money back for the ticket, I guess, just not anything else.
Have you ever been to Las Vegas?
No.
No, me either.
I saw Shania in Las Vegas and she rode onto the stage on a white horse.
Really?
Best show ever. You'll never forget something like that.
I've spoken to many people who've been to Las Vegas, and I've not spoken to one who's been disappointed. Everybody says it's an incredible place.
It's hideous but fantastic.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. When you arrive there and you come up the escalator, the first thing you see are slot machines. And if you go to the loo, there are slot machines everywhere. But when you get into the hotel, all the windows are locked at night so that nobody can jump out. They don't want any suicides because people go there and do all their money.
I see.
And then so you find that you can't open your hotel window.
Wow.
But the trick is, don't play on the tables, go on the Dolly Parton slot machines. That's what I do.
I want to go and stay in... Which is the hotel that's the pyramid?
The Egyptian, isn't it?
I don't know. But apparently, if you choose carefully, you can stay in one of the apartments that has the lift goes up at an angle up the side of the pyramid.
Oh, right.
I've just got to go there just to get in the lift.
It's never really appealed to me, but I might have to change my mind on
I
that
think
one.
so, yeah.
But I'm not much of a diva with stuff like that, unlike it would claim in The Sun, Nikki, Prince Andrew.
Yeah, so, gosh, all these stories are coming about Prince Andrew now that he's technically a private citizen. So, you know, it's kind of that thing, be careful who you mean to on the way up, etc., because all the staff are sort of starting to leak stories about him. And there's this latest story about how he apparently threw a hissy fit because he was asked to move toiletries out of a bathroom.
Good grief.
And,
good grief.
You know, he just doesn't think he should be expected to do these kinds of things.
Well, he doesn't have to move his own toiletries.
Doesn't have to move his own toiletries, and if he does, he can't cope with it.
Why did he have to move them?
I don't know. To make way for Prince Charles, apparently. Yeah, he was staying in the bedroom suite that the Prince Charles was going to come and stay in, and he was asked to move, and the Queen had to intervene, apparently, didn't
The Sun has got a great headline, as always, about a royal flush.
There you go.
Oh, very good.
Had to be, didn't it?
Very good. But it is, again, are we surprised, David, that the royals, when it comes to this sort of thing, are not in touch with the rest of us?
What amazed me the other day was the story about the teddy bears, which you must have seen, about how he had all his teddy bears arranged on the bed, and if they were not in the right place, he would scream at people and say, that's not in the right place there. And, you know, we had Prince Harry saying to people, if you don't like your job and you think it's boring, quit. Well, you know, it's fine. How out of touch can you be with people when you say something like that? You know, a lot of people have boring jobs, but they can't think about quitting them because basically they need the money.
Got bills to pay, food to buy.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's going to be interesting how particularly the younger royals, and William and Kate, start to reflect all of this, because they do seem to be a bit more in touch.
Yeah,
that's the impression you get.
I think so, and I think they certainly know if they don't know something, they don't speak about it. So they don't wade into things that they don't feel confident talking about. They've got the best advisors, but they spend a lot of time talking to ordinary people. They always have done, William and Kate. So, you know, whatever you think about them, they definitely are far more down to earth.
Yeah. I think William and Kate are wonderful. I think she has adapted to the royal family so well. She's so elegant. She hasn't put a foot wrong. I think she is fantastic.
Yeah, she's a class act, isn't she?
As a future king and queen, they will keep the tradition going.
Yeah. Oh, well, look, let's hope so. Good to see you both this morning.
Ending on a good note.
Yes, nice to finish on a positive. Mr. David Hamilton, living legend that you are.
Legend.
And Nikki Hodgson, who I can't say the same about yet, but maybe in a year or two, Nikki. Thank you both. We'll catch up with you a little bit later on.
It's 6:45. Should we bring you up to date with the headlines? A senior Tory backbencher who's accused Downing Street of trying to blackmail MPs seeking to oust Boris Johnson will meet police to discuss his allegations. William Ragg is meeting a new Scotland Yard detective next week, meaning that police could potentially open an investigation. Number 10 spokesman says they would only open an inquiry if it was presented with evidence to back up Mr. Ragg's claims.
The BBC and the government are set for a court battle over the story that the broadcaster wants to air, which would reportedly identify a spy operating overseas. The Telegraph claims that neither party would say what the details of the programme are, but both have confirmed that the government was after an injunction.
Olympic cycling gold medalist Chris Boardman is to head up a new government agency, Active Travel England, which will be tasked with improving cycling and walking infrastructure in England. The agency, which launches today, will manage the National Active Travel budget, awarding funding to projects that improve health and air quality.
This is the one I liked today. Idris Elba is said to be part of the conversation over who will replace Daniel Craig as the next 007. Speaking on a podcast, the film's producers, including Barbara Broccoli, have recognised that a lot of fans want to see Idris in a tuxedo. Other actors in the running include Tom Hardy, Richard Madden and Henry Cavill.
Actually, that would be an interesting one for you to give us your views on. GBviews at gbnews.uk. Is Idris Elba going to be the next 007, do you think? Or can you think of someone better?
He would be great. Henry Cavill would be very good.
Which one's Henry Cavill?
Henry Cavill, he was Superman. He's the main guy in The Witcher.
Right, that's why I don't know him.
Yeah,
okay.
he's very, very good. Very English.
But so's Idris.
Well, so is Idris, yeah. I mean, my money's on Idris. I think it'd
Me
be
too.
great.
I think it'd be a great move. The North Yorkshire Moors Railway is one of Yorkshire's best-known tourism attractions, with more than 100 full-time staff, 550 volunteers and 50 seasonal workers. It's a scenic railway. It stretches for miles through the North York Moors National Park, past idyllically preserved stations, which you may recognise from the blockbuster films like Harry Potter and Indiana Jones.
Yeah, but because of the pandemic, the charity that runs it has struggled to survive, which led to the launch of fundraising campaigns and national appeals. Anna Riley reports now on how the famous tourist destination has rewritten its future after grappling with the virus for almost 2 years.
The North Yorkshire Moors Railway is the UK's largest preserved heritage railway, carrying more than 300,000 passengers each year and injecting an estimated 45 million into the county's economy. Born from a railway preservation society, the not-for-profit organisation is run and maintained by a dedicated network of volunteers and staff who plan and maintain the train service and its 18-mile infrastructure. But despite its vintage, it nearly fell into ruin as a result of the multiple lockdowns imposed by the pandemic.
We had a tough time during the pandemic. There was one period where we had a £4 million hole in our finances and we genuinely didn't know what was going to happen. And thankfully, things like the furlough scheme came along. We also got money from the Arts Council and places like that. So fundamentally, it came together in the end, but it was a very difficult and stressful period for us all. We've had to look at ourselves as a business. It's time for us to look at actually what we do for public benefit, not just for our own benefit and not for the benefit of just the people travelling on us, but for the wider public benefit. And look at the fact that we are a charity. We've been a charity since 1974, and make sure that we actually are relevant to people and society.
The popular tourist destination could become one of the last places in Britain to burn lump coal, and this may mean more of a focus on education at the railway for a coming generation that may never lay eyes on coal outside of a museum.
What we're hoping to be is the place that burns coal, to explain why Britain burnt coal, why the world burnt coal, so that it is a relevance. It is seen as something that teaches us about the past, and actually that whilst coal is acknowledged to be something that definitely is environmentally damaging, and there's no getting away from that, that's a fact, we can't change that, but fundamentally it still was the building block of our industrial past and to a certain extent the industrial future of the world. You know, it was the foundation, it was the power that built everything, and we're a graphic interpretation of that. And that is still something that's important. It's still important that we remember why we burnt coal. We can't forget that. So if we burn a relatively small amount and we're still able to educate people, I still think we have a place in the world going forward.
So for a thriving future of the North York Moors Railway, it's set to be far more charitable than businesslike in its objectives, with a focus on its people and a recognition of its purpose in education and preserving an important piece of British history. Anna Riley, GB News, Gromont.
Gromont.
Yeah, but I love railways.
Oh, me too. It's beautiful as well. I mean, to get on that line and see all of that history and the old trains and all the rest of it, I think it's fantastic.
To do it. Yeah, it's really brilliant.
We've got to work on preserving that sort of
Yes,
thing.
absolutely. And that's why, I mean, so many places have had such a rough 2 years now, particularly but places like that we've got to really support. Support your local railway.
Do you know what I fancy doing? And I've never done it, but to get on a steam train for a good 20, 30 miles and have like an afternoon tea.
What about holidaying on the Orient Express?
Oh, that would be nice.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Expensive, though.
Very, very. But it's all about dressing up and eating and drinking, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
But it would be fun to do it.
Sort of back in, take yourself back to the 1920s, all that sort of thing. Is that a bit weird?
No, it's not. It's fun. It's great.
That'd be nice to do. Now, this is a slightly weird one.
I find it fascinating.
Genetically modified mosquitoes with a suicide gene are being sold directly to the public by a British biotech company. They want to combat diseases like dengue fever.
Yeah, well, people in Brazil apparently can order eggs online which produce genetically altered male mosquitoes. Now, the males don't bite and therefore don't spread disease. And then when they're released and they breed with wild females, which do bite, the female offspring carry that lethal gene that kills them before they reach adulthood. I know, I've heard about this before. It's one of the ways they're desperately trying to combat all of the diseases spread by mosquitoes.
But then, do mosquitoes perform a useful part in our ecosystem? I mean, I don't know, do they?
I don't know. They must do. Everything plays a part, doesn't it?
So I sort of think if you get rid of them all...
But if you got rid of some...
Yeah.
Because it's a terrible thing, the way that all of the diseases they spread have a terrible effect. And so I know that scientists have been working all over the world trying to think of, and this is a novel way, but fancy being able to buy them online and then release them where you are. It's odd, isn't it?
It's a bit strange.
Very odd way of doing it.
I imagine buying a load of mosquito eggs, but you never know. Thankfully, our climate over here does not require it.
No,
yes.
Thankfully. Yeah.
It might all be changing, who knows. This one, again, I'm not quite sure what I think of this. The BBC is editing classic radio comedies from its archive to remove racially insensitive and politically incorrect jokes.
Yeah, you think of things like shows like Dad's Army, Steptoe and Son on BBC Radio 4 Extra. They've been altered, sometimes to remove entire sketches. And according to an anonymous Radio 4 Extra listener, edits have been made to programmes over several years to remove content likely considered racist or misogynistic.
Now, I don't know if I agree with this or not because of the... Certainly, I listen to Radio 4 Extra because I like the sort of comedies, but when there is stuff coming up, they have said in the past, this contains material which was,
appropriate at the time, but isn't now.
Yeah.
To change them, I think sometimes you listen to things and you think, that wouldn't be allowed nowadays, and it is insensitive.
But if you listen to it within the context of when it was set, does it matter?
Yeah, I think it does.
Yeah.
I think it does, because then...
It depends what it is.
Yeah. But, I mean, if you watch an episode of something like On the Buses or something like that, it is appalling, actually, the way that men treated women and the things they said about them. The misogyny is appalling, and it was deemed funny then.
Yeah.
And it sort of is awkward now, I think.
Yeah. Oh, it should be really interesting to get your thoughts on that. GBViews at GBNews.
Why don't the BBC just make new programmes instead of editing the old ones?
Oh, well, it's cheaper, I would imagine.
Oh, and if I were a writer, I'd be saying they should be employing new writers to write new stuff, not find ways of genetically altering the old.
But I guess they do that. There's a market for the old stuff. It's quite nice to reminisce over some of the old comedies, isn't it?
Mm.
Not that I'm a fan of Dad's Army particularly.
No.
Yeah,
no.
But interesting. And what was the one with Alf Garnett? Till Death Us Do Part and whatever the sequel was. I mean, that was terrible.
It was terrible in those days, actually. It was very edgy then, wasn't it? But I think it would be... I think most people would find it too awkward to watch now.
Yeah, I mean, it was quite racist, wasn't it?
So... It was, completely so, actually. Yeah, well, there you go.
Times change, which is a good thing. Stay with us here on Breakfast with Stephen and Anne. We've got plenty more to come for you this morning, including the latest COVID update. And we'll be asking, just how clean is your teapot? We want pictures as well.
Yeah. Oh, no!
Good morning. Dry but drab kind of sums up the weekend for most of us. It will be fairly cloudy, but a few places seeing a bit of blue sky. And say most of us are not going to see much rain thanks to high pressure. Now, the main exception to that dry story will be northwest Scotland. There's a weakening weather fronts which will bring at times some rain to particularly the Highlands, Argyll and Bute through the day today. But even that's pushing south, so Caithness, Sutherland and Northern Isles may well brighten up. We'll see some sunny spells across eastern England, eastern Scotland and across the south. There'll be at times some breaks in the clouds, reveal a bit of blue sky, but for most it will just stay cloudy but dry with light winds, certainly across the south. Always quite breezy across the north, but it is here where we'll see the top temperatures, 11, maybe 12 Celsius if we see some brightness, say on the Moray Firth. Elsewhere, a little warmer than yesterday, 8-9 degrees, but of course most of us won't have the sunshine. Through this evening, we'll keep a lot of cloud, which will again help prevent a frost in most places. Where skies stay clear, parts of northeast England, eastern Scotland, again, temperatures could, at least for a time, drop down to freezing. Still a brisk breeze in the northwest and a bit of drizzly rain here, but for most it stays dry. And again, as I said, temperatures generally holding up, certainly in towns and cities, a few degrees above zero. On to Sunday, and it's a very similar story to Saturday. Again, some drizzle likely in the northwest during tomorrow, but apart from that, and maybe the odd spot over hills elsewhere, most places dry and cloudy. But again, some breaks likely in the cloud, parts of northeast Wales, northeast England, and again, northeast Scotland may well see some sunny spells. And if we do, temperatures again could get to double digits, but for most we're looking at 8 or 9 Celsius. This area of high pressure is sticking around through the weekend and indeed into next week. Again, weather fronts may bring some patchy rain at times, particularly to the northwest, but for most, this area of high pressure promising to keep more dry weather across the country well into next week.
Key is here to answer all your questions on equity release. Which plan, for instance, is right for you? Key has a wide range of plans to suit different needs, and with competitive rates and options such as inheritance protection for your loved ones, we're sure to find the plan that's right for you. So why not see how much cash you could release with our free online calculator? Key, equity release that's right for you.
My word, Money Super 7, that was a close one. But you two were in and out of there in no time. And you saved Sarah an impressive £327 on a new credit card.
The Money Super 7, helping Britain save on credit cards and so much more. Super Save with Money Supermarket.
Open goal is the ultimate garden football goal. It stops balls going over and rebounds missed shots. As seen on Dragon's Den and a winner at the ISPO Awards 2019. It's a goal, backstop and rebounder all in one.
They think it's gone over. It hasn't now.
Dry or chesty cough? Wondering what type of cough you have? Try BronchoStop. BronchoStop is used to relieve dry and chesty coughs. BronchoStop, to relieve any cough.
The Sky Broadband January sale is here. Start the new year with a bang and get our January Fibre special for just £25 a month. It comes with super fast speeds and our outstanding service too. So brace yourself for our incredible Sky Broadband January Fibre special with super fast speeds and outstanding service for the amazing value of just £25 a month for 18 months. New and existing customers, don't miss out. It won't last long. Go to sky.com today.
Good morning. It's 7 o'clock on Saturday, the 22nd of January. This is Breakfast on GB News with Stephen and Anne.
We are live across the whole of the UK on your TV and on your radio. So whether you're watching us in Antrim in Northern Ireland or maybe you're listening to us in good old Whitby or watching us on YouTube in Brixham in Devon, we are here for you wherever you are.
Coming up this morning, the Conservative backbencher who accused Downing Street of trying to blackmail MPs is to meet police to discuss his allegations. William Ragg said he'll provide officers from Scotland Yard with examples of bullying and intimidation. The Prime Minister insists he has seen no evidence of blackmail in his party.
The government's reportedly considering pausing the vaccine mandate for NHS workers amid fears of the loss of 70,000 staff. But do you think that's the right decision?
It's going to cause problems, whatever, isn't it? Now, we're asking this very important question this morning. How clean is your teapot? We're going to be asking cleaning guru Aggie McKenzie what the best way is to remove tea stains. You know, like this. Which happens in the best of
not in my house.
Houses. Yuck. Caused by tea bags and things like that. And I mean, some people think it's good for a teapot, particularly, to build up tannin. And I just look at it and think, no, I'd rather have it clean.
Yeah.
What do you do at home?
It looks a bit manky if it's brown on the inside. Let us know what you think. And we're going to take a look at the latest royal news, including that clip of Prince William comforting a young boy who lost his mum.
So you can join in any of our discussions, please do, by emailing gbviews@gbnews.uk, or you can tweet us at gbnews.
So, tea stains.
The minute you talk about them, the minute you talk about anything to do with making a cup of tea in the morning, people have views. And we've had so many views already. Thanks very much indeed from people saying, use a paste made out of bicarbonate of soda and a scouring pad. That sounds like a lot of trouble to go to.
Sounds like a lot of hard work. AM says, Milton steriliser. Drop in the cup, top up with water, and the stain vanishes in minutes. It'll do your teaspoons as well, and it's kinder than bleaching. When did I get so boring?
Yeah, there you are. If you wash the vessel, says Mickey, if you wash the vessel up immediately after use, there will be no stains. However, teapots benefit in the build-up of tannins to enhance the brew. There you are, you see.
Look up to the sky says use a credit card to buy a new one.
New teapot?
A new teapot.
What, every time? It's a bit much, isn't it?
It's a bit much, but it does take a while to build up all the tea.
I like the use of the word vessel.
The vessel is very Western.
It's very posh, isn't it? So you share your cleaning tips with us, please do. But let's hear from an expert in this very sort of matter. With us now is cleaning guru Aggie Mackenzie. Aggie. Good morning.
Anne. Hello, Steve.
Hello. How lovely to see you. Do you like a nice cup of
thing
tea?
to be talking about at 7 o'clock in the morning.
Well, no,
Mind
you see, it's
that's
the
when people
perfect
are making
time.
a cup of tea.
Exactly. So, do you have a cup of tea in the morning?
I don't like tea at all, actually.
What?
Oh.
It's not for me. I love the idea of a cup of tea, and I get really envious when I hear people say, "Oh, that was a lovely cup of tea." I can't. I just don't like it. I've never liked it. Actually, I drank it till I was about the age of 5, with loads and loads of sugar and milk. And then when I went to school, I didn't have it anymore. So, yeah, that's it. But in terms of the teapot, I would, because I don't actually. I do have a teapot. I've got it here, but I never use it. In fact, I took it off the shelf. Had a bit of dust on it. Would you believe? Because I never use it. I think that I go along with people who say, leave the insides, just let the tannins build up. Apparently, it improves the flavour of the tea. I mean, why do you want to go to the effort of cleaning the inside of a teapot? I'd say don't clean unless you absolutely have to.
I mean, can I be a bit... there's all this controversy of whether you use sort of, for your teapot or your mugs and your teaspoons, a drop of Milton or a bit of bleach or whatever. If you've got a dishwasher, that brings them up beautifully, doesn't it?
Yes.
Oh, no, not necessarily.
Porcelain teapots, yes, but if you've got a metal teapot, say one that's not meant to go in the dishwasher, then that's not going to work very well for it, is it? Stainless steel is fine, but normal steel won't work so well. I read, actually, that somebody was saying that they use caustic soda to clean the inside of the teapot. I would say, do not go near caustic soda. If you get it anywhere near your skin, it'll burn your skin. So it's not going to do very much good for your throat either, is it? Do not use caustic soda.
What about the bleach then? The bleach idea, because I know you use a bit of bleach every now and then, and I've done that. Is that a bad thing?
I guess it involves a lot of rinsing afterwards, though, doesn't it? You don't want bleach anywhere near your cup of tea, do you?
No, you rinse.
I think Milton is a very sort of mild form of bleach, and it works very well. It's gentle, so if you want to clean the inside of the teapot, that's what I would do. Boiling water, a little bit of Milton, or a little bit of biological detergent. That works quite well. But using all these things, you have to rinse very well afterwards. So, it's about whether you want to put the effort into it or not, how much it matters to you to have the inside of your teapot sparkling or not.
Do we go a bit cleaning mad sometimes? I mean, I know obviously you like to make sure that we're all spick and span, but can we go a bit mad with the cleaning? I mean, it's not necessarily healthy to have everything absolutely sterilised, is it?
Sure, I think some people do go a bit mad on cleaning. I think there are many more enjoyable and important things to do in life than clean. I always say, cleaning is an evil necessity. If you want a clean place, you have to do the work. But don't clean unless you have to. Don't clean something unless it needs it. Absolutely.
What about, can I just ask about teacups? Because I think having a teapot, maybe just standing there, with this morning's tea still in it, it may be acceptable to some people. But nevertheless, you like your mug or your cup to be clean. And you've got to use something like bleach on it then to keep that clean, haven't you?
Yeah, if you have a dishwasher, dishwashers will always deal with that. But if you don't have a dishwasher, a really cheap way of doing it is to sprinkle the inside with wet inside with salt, and then take a damp cloth around, and the salt will take all the stains off. Just that abrasiveness of the salt will remove the stain.
That's the way to do it, I suppose.
Why
are we so? Well, I wonder why we are so motivated about this. Why we talk about tea and milk first and tea first and how to clean your cups and all the rest of it. We do seem to be obsessed with cleaning, don't we?
I suppose, tea is very much part of British life, isn't it? And households and people's daily rituals. So it's a big part of people's lives. Not my life, but, generally speaking, people do drink tea a lot. So I guess you want to know that what you're drinking out of is clean and that, you're not drinking anything that's a bit kind of nasty or going to give you germs. Not that tea will.
No, but there's nothing worse. There's nothing worse than going round to someone's house, is there? And actually, I did this with someone. I'll tell you in the break who it was. But it was someone quite well known, and was offered a cup of tea, and I had to say no because the mugs were just filthy.
No,
they were brown, and it is very off-putting.
Now, you see, they may be the sort of person who considers that OK, in fact, maybe even good thing. But, I'd feel the same. You want your cup to look clean. But I always think if it does...
mould in the cup next
to
the tea bag, that's not nice.
Yes, exactly. It's you always think if it does that to your teapot and your mug, what's it doing to your insides? We'll ponder that one. Aggie, it's great to talk to you. You're going off now to have some breakfast and a cup of coffee, maybe. Are you a coffee drinker?
I am a coffee drinker. Yes.
Well, there you are. Coffee does the same thing too.
Yeah.
Especially if it's espresso, which my boys make. We've got one of those posh coffee makers, and they get an espresso and then they leave a bit in the cup, and it's really difficult to get that stain out of a teacup.
Get the bleach.
Get them to do it is the answer, isn't it? Aggie, lovely to talk. Have a good day. Have a good Saturday.
Have a good day.
Yeah, thank you.
OK, now we've got your teapot sorted out. Let's bring you up to date with the headlines. And the US and Russia have held frank talks to try to calm the situation over Ukraine. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken met the Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov for discussions of what he said was a critical moment. Reports say no breakthrough looked imminent as fears increase over a possible Russian invasion.
US police say the fatal shooting of a 31-year-old British astrophysicist in his bed appeared to be the result of reckless discharge. Dr. Matthew Wilson was found dead after being shot in an apartment block in Georgia whilst visiting his loved ones.
High street pharmacists will now be able to refer obese people to a free online NHS weight loss programme. Previously, obese patients in England had to see a GP before they could access the 12-week plan. Those with high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes or a BMI over 30 are being encouraged to speak to their pharmacists.
And a new survey suggests that 1 in 3 drivers are unaware of changes to road rules which are aimed at protecting cyclists and pedestrians. 33% of motorists said they didn't know the highway code is being revamped, including 4% who have no intention of looking at the details. The revised highway code comes into force next week.
The majority of Ireland's COVID restrictions have been lifted today. COVID passes will no longer be required to gain entry to hospitality and entertainment outlets, and live events can return to full capacity. The move will also see an 8 p.m. curfew on the hospitality sector being lifted.
And actor Idris Elba is said to be part of the conversation over who will replace Daniel Craig as the next James Bond. Speaking on a podcast, the film's producer, Barbara Broccoli, recognised that a lot of fans want to see him in a tuxedo. Other actors in the running to replace Craig include Tom Hardy, Richard Madden and Henry Cavill.
Did you know that the highway code was changing?
No.
Because I think that 1 in 3 don't realise is not right.
No, I think most people. I had no idea. And I tell you what, do you ever think about the highway code after you've done your driving test? You never really do. Doesn't mean you don't know it, because obviously we all know signs, but we just don't think about the highway code.
And then 4% saying, and they're not going to, they're not bothered about checking up. Well, again, I think that's really low. I think people are being polite, because I sort of wouldn't think to sort of go and buy a highway code and look at it, relearn it and look at what's changed.
And how many things are changing? Or are they obvious changes? Are they going to be signs that sort of say, beware cyclists or something?
I mean, I passed my test 30 years ago. I could imagine that the highway code must have changed numerous times since I passed my test.
Yeah, I mean, I've learned the highway code with every son who's learned to drive.
Yeah.
But still, you come across some of the signs that they ask you about and you think, what the heck is that? You know, the one with the flying motorbike. You know, there's a flying motorbike one. Do you?
Oh, is that something to do with bridges?
Low flying motorbikes, it looks like. But I mean, that's what you have to struggle to make sense of some of them.
What does heavy plant crossing ever mean?
I've no idea. Sounds like something out of the Day of the Triffids.
It does, doesn't it? Anyway, let us know if you're aware of the changes to the highway code. Well, if you're out and about driving today, listening to us on the radio, wait till you've stopped before you send us an email.
Yes, that's right.
Would be my sensible advice. I'm sure that's in the highway code somewhere.
Yeah. Talking about changes to things, England's Plan B measures are to end from next Thursday, with mandatory face coverings in public places and COVID passports both dropped.
Well, the government has said, thanks to the success of the vaccination programme and dropping case numbers, people will be able to go to nightclubs without a vaccination passport, no longer have to wear a face mask in certain settings, and feel free, should you wish to return to office working.
Well, joining us now is Professor Azim Majid, Head of the Department of Primary Care and Public Health at Imperial College London. Firstly, then, does the data support this move by the government? What would your answer be on that one? Good morning.
Good morning, Anne. So I think the news is positive. We have seen a drop in cases in recent weeks, but case levels still remain very high, at around 100,000 per day, which is much higher than we had in previous waves of infection. So I'd prefer some things to be kept in place, such as face masks. I think those are quite valuable. They're not very inconvenient for people. And I think it would be helpful to have that measure in place for at least for a few more weeks until we have more news about how cases would progress in the UK.
But we are in a situation, aren't we, where, although, as you quite rightly say, the infection rates are still, I mean, they're very, very high compared to what they were over the last 2 years, but obviously the hospital admission rate and the death rate is not comparable in the same way as it was initially. Now that most of us are vaccinated, in that sense,
that's correct.
Does this really matter?
Thanks to vaccines, we are seeing much better protection from serious illness. But around 1 in 3 adults have not yet had the booster jab, for example. So I think we need to push ahead with that further. In the longer term, if we want a normal society, that means people coming forwards for their vaccinations, including their boosters, as well as their first and second doses. So I think it's essential to keep on pushing vaccination, because eventually that's the way we'll lead a more normal life in the longer term.
I've heard, I mean, you're not the only doctor to be saying this, that why not stick with things like face masks for a bit longer until we're more sure? Why do you think the government has decided to go ahead and lift these restrictions now?
They've obviously seen the figures in terms of case numbers, which have dropped a lot from the end of December. I think also there's pressure with their own party as well to end these measures. So as Boris Johnson is under pressure from some of his MPs to scrap these measures and perhaps even scrap other measures as well, such as the isolation period we have for people who test positive. So I think there's pressure from his party, but I think a sign suggests we need a bit longer, probably maybe another month or so, and then review figures perhaps towards the end of February and see where we are then. So I think it's a mixture of politics and science, but I think politics is driving some of this change in the government.
OK, let's be clear on that then, because in effect what you're saying is if this is purely a political move, then you're saying, presumably, are you, that lives are being put at risk because of a political decision, because of someone wanting to stay in their job?
I think masks do help, but I think the government, the lives could be put at risk. Perhaps not as many as before because we've now got good protection for vaccines. But I think we are seeing very high case numbers. We are seeing quite high death rates still, even though they have dropped from what we saw a year ago. So I think we still face a very tricky situation with COVID. We've got high case numbers, high numbers of admissions to hospitals, high numbers of deaths, and that will carry on probably for some time to come.
I wonder whether it's going to be difficult now if we take a personal decision, as I think I will, to go on wearing my mask. Will that put me in the minority? Will it actually be difficult to do that because people will make fun of you or even start shouting at you, as a man did to me the other day? Do you think it will actually make things more difficult for people who want to make that choice themselves?
I think it's easy when it's a government mandate to wear masks. When it's not a mandate and it's voluntary, as you mentioned, you will get people criticising for doing that. In my case, like with you, I will carry on wearing a mask. And for the time being, I wear a high-quality mask, which gives me more protection. So I would encourage people to carry on wearing masks for now until we have more data on how the pandemic is progressing across the UK over the next few weeks.
What do you make of this NHS vaccine mandate, the idea that the government may drop that within the next couple of weeks so people working within the NHS would not have to be vaccinated?
I think all health staff should be vaccinated. I'm fully vaccinated and I would encourage that. But I think in this case, I think government's probably right to review this and perhaps give people a bit more time to think about vaccination, because currently quite a large number of staff, perhaps 70,000, may lose their jobs in the next 2 months or so. So I think it's right to review this and perhaps give people more time to think about vaccination and perhaps encouraged by their colleagues to get vaccinated.
OK.
Yeah, well, thanks very much indeed for joining us. Wise words indeed. That's Professor Azim Majid, Head of the Department of Primary Care and Public Health at Imperial College London. Thanks very much indeed. Yeah, I was shouted at the other day for wearing my mask.
I mean, that's crazy, because actually people, you don't go shouting at people who haven't got a mask on, even when they should do.
I said it's my personal choice through my mask, and he went on shouting at me.
See, that's outrageous.
It is,
I do think it's outrageous. And I'm all for, as we talk about here on the channel a lot, we're all for people having different viewpoints. But it's about discussing them in a grown-up way, not yelling at people.
No, it was quite upsetting, actually.
I bet it was.
Yeah, horrible.
Stay with us here on Breakfast with Stephen and Anne. We've got plenty more to come for you, including the emotional moment that Prince William comforted a boy who had also lost his mother.
Good morning. Dry but drab kind of sums up the weekend for most of us. It will be fairly cloudy, but a few places seeing a bit of blue sky. And say most of us are not going to see much rain thanks to high pressure. Now, the main exception to that dry story will be northwest Scotland. There's a weakening weather fronts which will bring at times some rain to particularly the Highlands, Argyll and Bute through the day today. But even that's pushing south, so Caithness, Sutherland and Northern Isles may well brighten up. We'll see some sunny spells across eastern England, eastern Scotland and across the south. There'll be at times some breaks in the cloud to reveal a bit of blue sky, but for most it will just stay cloudy but dry with light winds, certainly across the south. Always quite breezy across the north, but it is here where we'll see the top temperatures, 11, maybe 12 Celsius if we see some brightness, say on the Moray Firth. Elsewhere, a little warmer than yesterday, 8-9 degrees, but of course most of us won't have the sunshine. Through this evening, we'll keep a lot of cloud, which will again help prevent a frost in most places. Where skies stay clear, parts of northeast England, eastern Scotland, again, temperatures could, at least for a time, drop down to freezing. Still a brisk breeze in the northwest and a bit of drizzly rain here, but for most it stays dry. And again, as I said, temperatures generally holding up, certainly in towns and cities, a few degrees above zero. On to Sunday, and it's a very similar story to Saturday. Again, some drizzle likely in the northwest during tomorrow, but apart from that, and maybe the odd spot over hills elsewhere, most places dry and cloudy. But again, some breaks likely in the cloud, parts of northeast Wales, northeast England, and again, northeast Scotland may well see some sunny spells. And if we do, temperatures again could get to double digits, but for most we're looking at 8 or 9 Celsius. This area of high pressure is sticking around. Through the weekend and indeed into next week. Again, weather fronts may bring some patchy rain at times, particularly to the northwest. But for most, this area of high pressure promising to keep more dry weather across the country well into next week.
Dry or chesty cough? Wondering what type of cough you have? Try BronchoStop. BronchoStop is used to relieve dry and chesty coughs. BronchoStop, to relieve any cough.
Blimey, Money Super 7. Your motorway shenanigans could have compromised our entire operation. But your leap of faith did save Dan an impressive £264 on his car insurance. And saved him £150 on the costs of running his car. Double whammy.
The Money Super 7, helping Britain save on car insurance and so much more. Super Save with Money Supermarket.
You know when you wake up in the morning and you think, who's that? Dull, blotchy skin, tired eyes. I start my routine with BFFI. It makes my under eyes feel bright. A dab here, love it. A dab there. Now for a bit of BFF de-stress. Oh, yes. Next up, lash to brow. Gorgeous. And for the final touch, sheer shimmer. Oh, yes. Now I'm ready for my day. Wake up your face at trinilondon.com.
Each day, we breathe in millions of viruses, which can lead to cold symptoms. Clean your nose every day with new Becco Cleanse. 100% seawater and rich in minerals, it cleanses away viruses and helps protect against winter symptoms. Help protect yourself with new Becco Cleanse. And to relieve nasal congestion, try Becco Cleanse Plus. Available in store or online.
7:23, this is Breakfast with Stephen and Anne on your TV and on your radio right across the UK this morning.
Now, the Duke of Cambridge, Prince William, will visit Dubai next month and join events showcasing talent from across the UK.
Prince William plans to support relations overseas at Expo 2020 Dubai, which is being temporarily taken over by UK National Day 2020.
Yeah.
I guess it must have been delayed.
Well, I suppose so, yeah. Why didn't they just call it 2022, though?
I think so, wouldn't you?
Joining us now to look at the work that the Duke is doing, as well as catching up on all the latest royal gossip, is biographer and royal commentator Angela Levin, who's with us. Hi there, Angela.
Good morning. Good morning.
Hello. Lovely to see you again. It's interesting the way they're carving up the responsibilities now, isn't it? Things the Queen might have done a few years ago are very clearly being delegated. How do you think they're doing it between Prince Charles and Prince William?
Well, I think the trip to Dubai for Prince William is absolutely perfect because in 2018 he went to Israel and Jordan, which is a diplomatic sort of minefield. And he did very well. He was charming. He met with lots of young people. He cracked jokes. He was very regal. And I think he did very well there. So this is an extension of that, isn't it? And he also can do his Earthshot. If you remember that he is trying very hard to work for clearing the air and making us all much healthier. And he has got 5 million to spend next year on people who are making doing a project that will help the climate change. And so he can meet people there who are young and who are trying to do this. So it sort of fits him very well. Of course, Prince Charles, all his adult life, he's campaigned for climate change and things, but he's got a massive amount on his plate because he's taken the majority of what the Queen would do onto his shoulders. And so I think it works very well indeed.
But how much, Angela, is this all reliant on Prince William as an individual, and how much is he advised by those people within the firm? I mean, is he like a minister with all his advisors around him telling him what to do and say?
Well, he's got quite strong views himself. And don't forget, he's been around all this for years. I think he's now really keen to do the best he can for the country, for the world, and also for the economy. I mean, Sheikh Mohammed, who rules Dubai, has said he wants to invest $12 billion pounds into our economy, and my goodness, we can do with that very well. So they think Prince William will charm him, and he obviously would have advisors and people who would do a lot of research on his behalf and give him a lot to read. It's a bit like studying for exam, I suppose. You read it through and again and again and again, and you've got advisors to tell you. But he's his own person. We've seen that for a long time now. He's got the engagements that he really wants to do. When he was younger, he got fed up with sort of the idea of cutting ribbon and just coming and saying hello and being on the top of a news letter page. But with Catherine by his side, they've come up with great ideas, and this has stimulated him and made him feel ready to talk to anyone about anything.
They've clearly decided, haven't they, that given the line of succession, that Prince Charles obviously will be the next king, and then Prince William, they've decided that royal duties are now basically between those three, aren't they, the Queen and those two?
Yes, and I think the Queen is backing down as well, because when there's a major decision to be made, Prince Charles is immediately consulted, and then they bring in William to have his view. So he is really contributing an enormous amount. I mean, this was with Prince Andrew and also Prince Harry, so it's personnel within the royal family, as well as actually how to cope with building back again. Don't forget, they haven't been able to go anywhere for 2 years because of the pandemic. So they've got to sort of rebuild how they do these foreign trips. I mean, he'll be going to America with Catherine next year, similarly for the Earthshot Prize. But that's a tricky one because they need to get the Americans on his side and on the royal family side, because Harry and Meghan are doing quite well at making the Americans believe that everything they say about the rotten royal family in the UK is true. So he's got, heavy duties coming along towards him. And the whole thing is that with a family, they have to work out when it suits them. Holidays and school holidays, whether you take them, whether you don't. It's all very complicated, but I think that he is there to show a more modern face, but Prince Charles has got the experience. So it's an ideal combination, really. And I don't think they're jealous of each other. I think they're working well together, and I think that will help the country and the royal family.
It's interesting. He also shows a very compassionate side as well. And it was lovely, this clip that's gone viral now, Angela, of Prince William with that young boy who lost his mum and being able to offer some comfort.
Oh, I had tears in my eyes, to be honest. I mean, the way he looked at him and said, it does get easier, I can tell you. Gosh, it was just so moving. And this boy, I thought, was so brave. Initially, when Catherine asked him questions, do you feel safe here? Do your friends understand what you're going through? And yeah. But then he softened up, and I think what Prince William said to him will linger in his mind. It was very brave to come on, but it was so compassionate, and that's William that we've got used to over the last few years, but wasn't there originally. And I think that that's due to a happy marriage and becoming a father and all that entails. And he's opened up and warmed up and doesn't mind saying things that I don't think he would have ever said, a few years ago.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you've been through a terrible tragedy like losing your mum, as this little boy did, a lot of people might say, we know how you feel, things will get better. And that's one thing coming from somebody who's just sympathising. But when it comes from Prince William, who also lost his mother, and we know of that sort of tragedy, and we all cast our mind back, hearing it from him really does mean something, doesn't it?
Yes. Don't you think that the expression on his face, though, said it all as well? I think when people say, "Oh, you'll feel better," they don't have the feeling that comes from inside that shows on their face. But I think with William, you could look at him and you knew he was feeling totally for that little boy, because he'd had the same feeling and he'd had to fight it. So I think people can get annoyed if someone say, "Oh, you'll be fine," or "Don't worry." You know, it's a sort of meaningless line on its own, but accompanied by the expression he had on his face, I thought it was deeply powerful.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people would, just about everyone would agree with you.
Yeah.
Angela Levin, really good to talk to you once again this morning. Thank you.
It happened at a centre. Thanks, Angela. It happened at a centre in Burnley, where this little boy. Well, I say he's a little boy, but he's 11. He's been seeking help there and talking to adults about his loss and everything. But apparently, he was a bit unimpressed at first because he was hoping that a footballer would turn up, a Burnley footballer, and he was a bit miffed when he found that it was just the Duke of Cambridge. But then afterwards, when they actually got talking, I think probably Prince William was able to give him something that maybe no footballer could.
Yeah.
So that's... you know,
it's nice. It is nice
lovely
to get
moment.
that.
It's nice to think that one day he and Kate will be king and queen, because I think they would be fantastic.
They will be, I'm sure. Stay with us. We've got plenty more heading your way, including a look at the papers in just a couple of minutes.
You won't catch me buying a new car. Before you know it, you've outgrown it and you want all the latest tech. Nah, I'm a lease man, mate. Lease a brand new car from Zen Auto with flexible pricing tailored to your budget. Then after 3 years, you can change it for something new.
What are you doing?
Well, them. Not my real family, actors. Want a new car you can change at the speed of life? Don't buy it, Zen it. Search Zen Auto.
SIM-only plans? There are always so many tempting options. So you jump headfirst into a long contract, which keeps you locked in for 12 months.
Somebody let me out!
At Lebara, we offer great value plans and total flexibility. You can get 10 gigs of data, unlimited UK minutes and texts, and 100 international minutes for just £10 a month. And you can change or cancel anytime.
Now I feel free!
Buy now at lebara.co.uk.
I worry about other people. So when I suffered from a medical mistake, I wondered, could I stop this happening to someone else in the future? Now I know.
Patient Claimline are specialist medical negligence lawyers. Call now or visit patientclaimline.com. Know for sure.
Hello, Sky. Play Sky Sports F1. Hello, Sky! Volume
up! The streaming TV from Sky, with 6 powerful speakers built in for Dolby Atmos sound.
7:35, this is Breakfast with Stephen and Anne on your TV and on your radio this morning.
We've got some lovely emails coming in. Cherry, hello Cherry. She says, I like your hair, Anne, very nice. Stephen is so well groomed. I love to see men clean shaven. Those magic white sponges take tea stains off easily. Thank goodness for GB News. I'm really enjoying the early morning programmes. She's covered just about everything we've been talking about.
And actually, this one, Pete, says, hello, Stephen and Anne, just getting ready for work, having breakfast, and I hear the national anthem for the first time since you started, and I was surprised as to how genuinely uplifted I felt and ready for the day.
Do you know, I was too. It was
nice,
It made
actually.
you feel quite proud, didn't it? And the scenery was lovely as well, because if you're listening at the moment, we actually sort of played some lovely, wonderful scenes of basically quintessential Britain, which was nice. Martin says, what a breath of fresh air. I'm watching you from Spain. Hi, Martin. Brits have been crying out for a channel that is unashamedly British.
Oh, well, there you go. Sarah, we'll come back to your tea. Any kitchen cleaner sprayed onto the offending tea stain, left a minute, and then just wiped them away. Very simple and no scrubbing needed.
I think it's about doing it at the time, isn't it? Oh, I like this one.
Rinsing.
Christine says, I use Sterident in my teapot. It cleaned my dad's false teeth, so I tried it in mugs and the teapot, and it works a treat. What cleans false teeth, I suppose, is going to do the job inside your teapot.
You probably don't have to rinse it quite as thoroughly, do you? Bob in Sheffield. Bob, you get the prize for the best one, I think, this hour. Just buy a brown teapot.
Cheat. Yes. Yeah. OK. Well, if you've got any more wonderful views, it's gbviews at gbnews.uk. Please, tell us all.
Let's have a look at the front pages for you. The Times says that the Prime Minister has reinstated his Tory leadership team to save his premiership as fears grow that a no-confidence vote is inevitable.
Boris Johnson is facing calls to ensure all evidence on the Downing Street parties is published alongside the results of the Sue Gray inquiry. That's the front page of The Guardian.
For The Express, a wonder pill, it says, that fights both coronavirus and flu could be the next exciting secret weapon in the war on viruses.
The Eye Weekend writes that the government is actively considering a pause to mandatory coronavirus vaccines for NHS workers over fears that mass sackings will obviously damage patient care.
The Daily Mail says MPs and business leaders have said a planned hike in national insurance this coming April must be stopped to help families survive the cost of living crisis.
And the Attorney-General is seeking an injunction against the BBC to prevent the BBC allegedly identifying a spy working overseas. That's the lead of the Daily Telegraph.
For the Mirror, it pays tribute to what it calls the end of a rock legend. That's after Meatloaf died of coronavirus.
Well, so says the Mirror, yeah. The Daily Star, however, reports that hardman Russian President Vladimir Putin has scared off extraterrestrials from visiting Earth by being too rough. Yeah, I know, I don't get that either.
The Financial Times weekend says Netflix lost $35 billion in market value on Wall Street's opening bell.
I'm sure they'll make it up, though, won't they? Yeah.
Yes, they will.
Shall we go through the papers now? And joining us this morning is journalist and author Nikki Hodgson and broadcaster David Hamilton. Welcome back.
Good morning. Can I just say that I heard the national anthem in the loo?
Oh, yes,
and immediately stood to attention.
Absolutely, quite right. That's what I was going to ask.
I don't know what to make of that, David.
it was very uplifting.
Thank you for sharing.
You can hear it everywhere. It's wonderful.
Yeah, there you go.
They do play it in the loo here.
Oh, dear.
Whatever we're saying, they play in the loo here. It's quite off-putting sometimes.
Off-put when you go to the loo and can hear me.
Well, yes.
Actually, when you're in there, you could be on the throne.
You go. Oh,
no more. It's too early in the morning for that.
Talking of thrones, the Duchess of Cornwall, David. Are we getting ready for Queen Camilla? She's becoming more popular, according to the Telegraph.
Yes, she is, and I think she's worked very hard on it. I think she's done very well. I mean, if you remember in the early days, she was like the Scarlet Woman, wasn't she? She couldn't do anything right. But, she deserves it. I like her, and I think people are warming to her, and the news is not at all surprising to me. So, well done, Camilla.
Yeah, what do you reckon, Nikki?
Yeah, it's interesting, because there's this survey in the Telegraph today, and they're saying that Charles and Camilla's popularity sits about 40-50%. That's as in people feel positively about them when you ask them. If you ask them about the Cambridges, it's much higher. It's 77 for Kate and 80 for William. So Charles and Camilla have got a bit of catching up to do, and obviously it still stokes that conversation. Should they just, give them a chance and say, we'll just retire and go on, you have a go.
Not a chance.
But I think it is important to say about Camilla, she does amazing work for domestic abuse victims, for children have got reading problems. She's quite quiet about what she does, but when she does it, she's very invested in it.
And she does a lot for type 1 diabetes for the JDRF, which is the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation, so for young children with type 1 diabetes, which is why I met her at one of their events.
Yeah.
And was so impressed. She really knew what she was talking about and was very approachable.
She's patron as well of medical detection dogs.
Oh, yes.
And they're doing fantastic work.
I've just had a thought, actually. Do you think that the Queen might stand down after the Jubilee and hand over to Charles and Camilla? Because she's finding the engagements more difficult to do. And
she always said she wouldn't, though, didn't she?
She's just got such a sense of duty, though.
She might rethink that and just wonder if maybe she might. But, you know, you were saying about William and Kate. They are, of course, younger and very glamorous couple and very, very popular. So to be running behind them is, that's not bad, is it, really?
Yeah, what about the idea of Queen Camilla?
Is she going to be the Queen or is she going to be the consort?
At the moment, they're saying, if asked, they say she'll be the consort.
Yes.
But I can't help thinking, don't you think, that she is being warmed up to be Queen?
That, you know, for years it would have never been acceptable, but now people just, they just feel they've forgotten about Diana, basically. They've forgotten about the past and they're ready to kind of move on and think...
Do you really think they've forgotten about Diana?
Well, I mean, I think what they have accepted is that story is very complex, and actually Camilla isn't necessarily kind of the evil one that she's been depicted to be. So I think it's nice that people are just sort of like, well, yeah, it is more complicated and it's time to move on and it's time to give people a chance.
It's interesting too, isn't it, that, you know, divorce. At one time, you know, divorce was taboo in the royal family. If you remember, you know, Princess Margaret was having a relationship with a divorced man, and
she couldn't marry him.
It wasn't not allowed. But nowadays, it doesn't seem to matter. So where Camilla is concerned, I don't think that will be any problem. Yeah, I think she should be Queen.
I think people feel differently now. Things have moved on, haven't they?
Yeah, I sort of think Queen. Why not? If you're married to the king, why not?
Yeah, and yes, exactly. It is that fundamental, isn't it?
Yeah.
She makes him happy. She's pretty good at what she does, isn't she?
Yeah.
Oh, why not? Never thought I'd ever say that, though, because I was always such a staunch Diana person.
Yes.
And I never thought I'd ever forgive Camilla, but I do.
No. Yeah. Well, it has taken time and a lot of hard work, but, you know, she's got there in the end.
Yeah, yeah. To the Mirror, David, looking at Meatloaf.
Yes, Meatloaf, Marvin Lee Aday, one of the most successful recording artists of all time. He sold over 100 million records. Bat Out of Hell, one of the best-selling albums of all time. And he died of COVID. And you'll remember another record that he made some time ago where he said, "I'd do anything for love, but I won't do that." And we all wondered what that was. And we now know. He wouldn't wear a mask.
All right.
That's the answer. That was what it was all about. I'll do anything for love, but I won't do that. You thought it was something else.
I was going to say, you predicted that a long time ago then, didn't you? That's what the... which paper is it? It's one of the tabloids. Is it The Mirror? Are saying that he died of COVID. They haven't said that, have they? His family haven't said that.
Well, the papers are saying it, I think, today, and one of the reasons was that he wouldn't wear a mask.
Yeah. Can I be controversial?
Yes, of course.
And say, as much as... I mean, Bat Out of Hell, I think, is a great album. There's some really great tunes on there. Whatever he did, the one he did with Cher and all that. I mean, brilliant. There's some brilliant music there. But is he famous for basically churning out 2 good albums a very, very long time ago? What's it? I mean, done nothing recently.
Yes, I think so. Two out of three ain't bad. That was another song of his, wasn't it? Another interesting thing too is that he died within a year of Jim Steinman, who of course was his original collaborator. So both of them sadly gone. And Todd Rundgren was the person who produced the album. So yes, I think we know him really, don't we, for that?
Well, it's interesting you say that because I didn't know his music very much at all. But he used to come on breakfast television in the 80s, and it's like he was a wonderful guest. I mean, he was just brilliant to talk to, and he sort of changed from being this, you know, heavy rock star to becoming a chat show guest.
Oh, did he?
I think he did Parkinson. He certainly came on our programme a lot, and we always looked forward to him coming because he had so much to say and he knew everybody and he'd done everything. He was lovely, lovely guy.
Well, that's quite nice to know, actually. He was a nice person. That's more important than anything else.
I remember he was talking to us and he was sort of slumped on the sofa one morning because I think it was very... he used to get up early in the morning to come in, and the director yelled down my ear saying, "Make him sit up." How do you tell Meatloaf to sit up, please?
Now, look, you, sit up.
No, wouldn't go down too well, would it? Now, to more serious... Well, it's not more... I'll say more serious. We're just idolising Meatloaf. But to this NHS mandatory vaccination scheme, Nikki, it's been controversial since it was announced. The government now seems to be saying, at least, that it may be sort of gently pushed to one side.
Yes, but it's not potentially for the reasons you think. So obviously there's been loads of hoo-ha about it, infringement upon liberties, lots of people in the NHS saying, please don't, because we'll have to quit. There are already 100,000 vacancies in the NHS currently, 70,000 staff that may have to go. So, it just doesn't make sense in terms of the numbers. But very importantly, lots of the Tory backbenchers feel very strongly that it should be overturned. So is it just a political trick on the part of Boris to stay in power? Get rid of this, get the backbenchers back on side, and nobody's going to be handing those letters into the 1922 committee.
Am I the only person who thinks it's really odd that healthcare... And if you are an unvaccinated healthcare professional, get in touch this morning. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. But I find it personally odd that people working on the front line in the NHS don't want to take this vaccine, which has been proved to save countless lives.
I've always found it baffling too. Me personally, I don't understand if you believe in the power of medicine, don't you believe in the power of vaccines? But I know, when we've talked to Michelle Jubilee, when we've often actually asked people to email in, and they've got loads of reasons about why they do or don't want to have the vaccine. But yeah, I'm always fascinated by it. And it's a bit worrying, isn't it? So if you think it's not right for you, then should we be doing it? It kind of undermines your confidence in health in a way.
Yeah, it does. I find it very odd.
And are we really saying 70,000 NHS workers would rather give up their job than have the vaccine? Not that they want to be put in that position, but if it has to be one or the other, they'd leave.
There are people who are very, very anti the vaccine, aren't they? And they just don't trust it. So how you get around that? I think the message is it's not just about you, it's about other people as well. And obviously, if you're working in a care home, then that's what you're doing. You're protecting other people. So it is quite a dilemma, isn't it, for the government?
Yeah, I think so. Well, it'd be very interesting to see what happens.
I'm the same as you. I'm baffled by it. I can't understand, particularly people working in the NHS, why they would be so adamant about not being vaccinated.
Yeah, let us know what you think if you're in that position. David Hamilton, Nikki Hodgson, thank you both. We'll catch up with you a little bit later on.
GBNews at GBViews at gbnews.uk.
That's the one.
One day I'll get it right.
Now, the North Yorkshire Moors Railway is one of Yorkshire's best-known tourism attractions. More than 100 full-time staff, 550 volunteers and 50 seasonal workers. It's a very scenic railway. Stretches for miles through the North York Moors National Park, past idyllically preserved stations that you may recognise from films like Harry Potter and Indiana Jones.
Yeah, but due to the pandemic, the charity struggled to survive, which led to the launch of fundraising campaigns and national appeals. Our reporter Anna Riley reports now on how the famous tourist destination has rewritten its future after grappling with the virus for almost 2 years.
The North Yorkshire Moors Railway is the UK's largest preserved heritage railway, carrying more than 300,000 passengers each year and injecting an estimated 45 million into the county's economy. Born from a railway preservation society, the not-for-profit organisation is run and maintained by a dedicated network of volunteers and staff who plan and maintain the train service and its 18-mile infrastructure. But despite its vintage, it nearly fell into ruin as a result of the multiple lockdowns imposed by the pandemic.
We had a tough time during the pandemic. There was the one period where we had a £4 million hole in our finances and we genuinely didn't know what was going to happen. And thankfully, things like the furlough scheme came along. We also got money from the Arts Council and places like that. So fundamentally, it came together in the end, but it was a very difficult and stressful period for us all. We've had to look at ourselves as a business. It's time for us to look at actually what we do for public benefit, not just for our own benefit and not for the benefit of just the people travelling on us, but for the wider public benefit. And look at the fact that we are a charity, we've been a charity since 1974, and make sure that we actually are relevant to people and society.
The popular tourist destination could become one of the last places in Britain to burn lump coal, and this may mean more of a focus on education at the railway for a coming generation that may never lay eyes on coal outside of a museum.
What we're hoping to be is the place that burns coal to explain why Britain burnt coal, why the world burnt coal, so that it is a relevance. It is seen as something that teaches us about the past and actually that whilst coal is acknowledged to be something that definitely is environmentally damaging, and there's no getting away from that, that's a fact, we can't change that, but fundamentally it still was the building block of our industrial past and, to a certain extent, the industrial future of the world. You know, it was the foundation, it was the power that built everything. And we're a graphic interpretation of that. And that is still something that's important. It's still important that we remember why we burnt coal. We can't forget that. So if we burn a relatively small amount and we're still able to educate people, I still think we have a place in the world going forward.
So for a thriving future of the North York Moors Railway, it's set to be far more charitable than businesslike in its objectives, with a focus on its people and a recognition of its purpose in education and preserving an important piece of British history. Anna Riley, GB News, Gromont.
Gromont sounds very nice.
It does. It sounds one of those type of stations. We're very happy now to say that Anna is with us. Anna, you lucky lady, because that railway looks absolutely wonderful. But presumably, because it's always had links with Hollywood, as we said before, the Harry Potter movies and things like that, couldn't that be a revenue stream that might keep them going if they could get another movie there?
Good morning, Anne and Stephen. Yes, there's some real links to Hollywood across the whole stretch of the North York Moors Railway. Last year, Indiana Jones, Harrison Ford, he was spotted there filming the 5th instalment of the movie franchise in June. And people that lived nearby, they spotted Nazi uniforms, and they think potentially that could be a link in the film that's coming up, and that's due to come out in July this year, so we'll have to keep our eyes peeled for that one if you're Indiana Jones fan. And then just a month before that, in April of last year, Tom Cruise was also spotted doing a stunt on one of the trains in the Pickering line in Levisham. So that was for the Mission Impossible 7 film, and that's due out in June this year as well. And if you'll be a fan of Heartbeat as well, I don't know if you both are, but actually Goathland was set up as Aiden's Field for the ITV Heartbeat show. And if you still go there, it's still very quaint as well, because there's the traditional shops, the garage, even the police station that's been turned into a hotel. And you mentioned Harry Potter as well. That same station in Goathland was used as Hogsmeade, and the Hogwarts Express was seen there as well in the start of the film and at the end of that first film, The Philosopher's Stone. And the staff and volunteers as well at the railway line, they've also been on a Channel 5 documentary that's still going out at the moment. So it's a fly-on-the-wall documentary, just watching behind the scenes of what the staff and the volunteers do along the railway line to keep it going.
Oh. Well, we'll have to go. Great. Thank you very much indeed for joining us there and telling us all about the Yorkshire Moors Rail. We'll have to go there.
We do need to go. But also, I was saying I quite like the idea of an afternoon tea and, you know, tea in a nice cup and a scone or whatever. Elaine has been in touch. Morning, Elaine. It says, Stephen, have you not heard of the Northern Bell or East Lancs Railway? They do fabulous journeys with posh food, both at different costs. I'll go for the cheaper one, because obviously...
The nearest I've got to one of those old railways, I was in Swindon once and Thomas the Tank Engine went past our train. Oh, it's very exciting.
With the boys...
Yeah, yes, they were. We were all very excited, Thomas the Tank Engine.
I'll tell you who was very excited about the talk of Heartbeat and Aiden's Field. Was Aidan McGee.
Aiden's Field, of course, yeah.
I was indeed, yeah. I used to watch it a little bit, actually.
Heartbeat? It
was. It took a while to get into it. I could never see Nick Berry as anything other than Wixie from his day.
Yeah.
But yeah, great days.
It was. Good. Look, let's talk Everton, should we?
Yeah, we should. I mean, lots of different angles on this story. Duncan Ferguson's in charge today for the visit of Aston Villa. Stephen Gerrard, as the Aston Villa manager, sounding off about Rafa Benitez taking the Everton job in the first place. He's saying, what were we doing? You know, going to a rival club like that was never, ever going to work. Villa travelled to Everton today for the 12:30 kickoff. Duncan Ferguson's in charge for that game for Everton. He's been told today, do these players understand what it means to play for Everton? And he said they do now. So if you've seen the size of this bloke, he's about 6'5". He's absolutely enormous. He's gone in there and told every single player what it means to play for this club. They're getting paid absolute fortunes. They got 19 points from 19 games, not good enough. And he said, that's why I'm in there. I wasn't surprised to get a call to come and take this job. But longer term, I don't think he's going to get the job himself, although saying that, he wins all his games. You never know what might happen. Wayne Rooney seems to be the favourite to take over. He's incumbent at the moment at Derby. Derby have an enormous points deduction, and so they're still in the bottom three because of some financial irregularities. Huge problems for Derby now. Their existence is very much threatened. But Wayne Rooney doing a fantastic job at Derby at the moment, and he's played his way or worked his way into contention for an emotional return to Everton.
We're very tight for time, Aidan, sadly. Give just a quick word on Norwich and Watford. Who's going to go down?
Well, I criticise them every single week, my university town, but they gave themselves a huge shot in the arm last night, winning 3-0. They out of the bottom three, which psychologically is very, very important, and they've done their chances of staying up, the power of good.
And very quickly, who's going to win the Australian Open now that Andy Murray's out?
Rafa Nadal, I think, has got a huge chance down there. He's won it once, 5 finals back in 2009, made Roger Federer cry back in 2009. Daniel Medvedev, don't rule him out, though. He's a favourite.
OK, lovely stuff. Aidan, we'll catch up with you next hour.
Sure.
Thank you. OK, stay with us here on Breakfast. We've got plenty more coming up in just a minute.
Good morning. Dry but drab kind of sums up the weekend for most of us. It will be fairly cloudy, but a few places seeing a bit of blue sky. And say most of us are not going to see much rain thanks to high pressure. Now, the main exception to that dry story will be northwest Scotland. There's a weakening weather fronts which will bring at times some rain to particularly the Highlands, Argyll and Bute through the day today. But even that's pushing south, so Caithness, Sutherland and Northern Isles may well brighten up. We'll see some sunny spells across eastern England, eastern Scotland and across the south. There'll be at times some breaks in the cloud to reveal a bit of blue sky, but for most it will just stay cloudy but dry with light winds, certainly across the south. Always quite breezy across the north, but it is here where we'll see the top temperatures, 11, maybe 12 Celsius if we see some brightness, say on the Moray Firth. Elsewhere, a little warmer than yesterday, 8-9 degrees, but of course most of us won't have the sunshine. Through this evening, we'll keep a lot of cloud, which will again help prevent a frost in most places. Where skies stay clear, parts of northeast England, eastern Scotland, again, temperatures could, at least for time, drop down to freezing. Still a brisk breeze in the northwest and a bit of drizzly rain here, but for most it stays dry. And again, as I said, temperatures generally holding up, certainly in towns and cities, a few degrees above zero. On to Sunday, and it's a very similar story to Saturday. Again, some drizzle likely in the northwest during tomorrow, but apart from that, and maybe the odd spot over hills elsewhere, most places dry and cloudy. But again, some breaks likely in the cloud, parts of northeast Wales, northeast England, and again, northeast Scotland may well see some sunny spells. And if we do, temperatures again could get to double digits, but for most we're looking at 8 or 9 Celsius. This area of high pressure is sticking around through the weekend and indeed into next week. Again, weather fronts may bring some patchy rain at times, particularly to the northwest, but for most, this area of high pressure promising to keep more dry weather across the country well into next week.
Hello there, I'm Eamon.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world. If
you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
Good morning. It is 1 minute past 8 on Saturday, the 22nd of January. This is Breakfast on GB News with Stephen and Anne.
And we're live across the whole of the UK on both your TV and your radio. Whether you're watching us in Glasgow, whether you're listening to us in Bristol, and maybe you're even watching us on YouTube in Newcastle.
You very well might be. Wherever you are, you can take us with you throughout the day here on GB News. And some of you may also be catching up via the GB News app while you're heading to work, if you're working on a Saturday. And if you're a Brit abroad, a few of you have been in touch as well this morning, do get in touch. We'd love to hear from you. Coming up for you today.
We'll be speaking to the Royal Mint about how you can get your hands on a 50p coin commemorating the Queen's Platinum Jubilee.
How long has it been since your last checkup? We'll ask a member of the Board of Dental Practitioners as to why some people are still waiting.
And the highway code is changing next week, so why does nobody know about it?
Well, join in any of our discussions by emailing us gbviews@gbnews.uk or just drop us a tweet at gbnews.
Hi, we've got lots of views.
Oh, I love the fact that you're all getting in touch this one. We've got pages and pages and pages of them.
Yeah,
Lovely.
David said he loved hearing the national anthem in the mornings. We're playing the national anthem just before we come on air, just before 6, if you don't want to miss it.
It is really nice to hear. It is quite uplifting.
I was worried that it was going to feel very old-fashioned, like it used to be on the telly, didn't it? Years ago. But actually, it was lovely.
Yeah.
There was something a bit uplifting about it.
Do you know, it's nice when people are nice, which you don't... On social media and things, it can be awful. So the fact that a lot of you are getting in touch to say things like Anne, who says, I've ditched the other morning shows, quite right too. They and their presenters are dull compared to Stephen and Anne. What
lovely.
a fab pairing.
Angela says, just to say how much I like Stephen in the mornings. I watched him on Sky and now I watch him on your channel. A good catch. You're a good catch.
I'm a good catch.
Yeah, isn't that nice?
My mother? No, she's not.
No, I don't think so. Jack in Herne Hill says, so good to see David Hamilton on the show. Yes, he'll be on again as well, reviewing the newspapers for us. When I was younger, I'm sure he was known as Diddy David Hamilton. He was.
Yeah.
He still is quite Diddy. Wish I had seen and heard the national anthem this morning. Well, like I say, 6 o'clock.
Alan's been in touch. Now, this one is... I said, I heard Stephen say controversy. That must have been how I said it then.
Yeah, he says, is it pronounced controversy or controversy? Like scone or scone, or... He said, I'm just asking from Malta. Or is that Malta? Keep up the good work. Malta's lovely, isn't it? I visited Malta for the first time last year. Oh, it's so beautiful.
Were you on a cruise ship?
I was. Oh. There I was in Valletta Harbour. Oh, I can't tell you how beautiful it was in Malta. Absolutely glorious. So you're very lucky to be there, Alan. But it is a bit controversial as to whether it's controversial or controversial.
Controversial, yeah.
Controversy or controversy? What is it you say? How did you say it?
I heard Stephen say controversy. You see, this is the problem. I can't remember.
Now you're thinking about it. You're not going to say it the way you say it.
I think I might have said controversy, but I'm not entirely sure. I might have said controversy.
If it comes up again, we'll see what you do.
Yeah.
Or we'll replay it or something.
Isn't it interesting? There are loads of little words like that, though. You never know quite how to do it. Is it schedule or schedule?
Schedule.
See, schedule, but you don't say...
Schedule is American, isn't it?
But you don't say you're going to shul instead of school.
No, there are lots of weirdnesses like that, aren't there?
I don't know.
I mean, and is it Bath or Bath?
Bath, obviously.
Well, my sisters complain that when I'm on the telly, I say Bath, and when I'm at home, I say Bath.
You see that? You think it'd be the other way round. Because Bath would be what you say with the phone voice on.
I don't want you to think I'm posh. I think that's what it must be. Odd, that, isn't it?
Yeah. I've never thought of you as being posh.
Oh, I used to get ticked off for being too posh.
Really?
But mind you, if you play a very old video of me, I sound very posh. But then we all did, once upon a time. And talking about people with posh accents, what about Camilla as Queen? Glynis says, no, we haven't forgotten about Diana, nor will we. So it's a no to Queen Camilla for me.
Oh, well, there you go. Keep your thoughts.
All right, no, there's more.
Oh,
Elizabeth says, absolutely not should there be a Queen Camilla. I have not moved on or forgotten about Diana. I think it would be the end of the monarchy. Wow, that's a bit rough.
Yeah, oh, well, let us know what you think. Your views are always welcome. They're all valid. gbviews@gbnews.uk. Now, let's talk money, should we? The Royal Mint has announced it's releasing an exclusive 50p coin to celebrate the Queen's Platinum Jubilee.
To make sure that members of the public get the chance to grab the coin, the Royal Mint has collaborated with UK post offices and will have access to those coins nationwide from February the 7th. This special 50p piece features an elegant and bold number 70 on one face, whilst the other features Her Majesty on a horse.
Let's talk to Director of UK Currency at the Royal Mint, Mark Loveridge. Really good to see you this morning, Mark. Look, how important is it to when you decide to release coins to mark these significant national occasions?
Great to meet you this morning. Really significant. The Royal Mint, we've been around for over 1,100 years. And we've been serving monarchies for all that time and releasing royal events. This particular 50p is really exciting because it's the first time that we're celebrating a royal event on a 50p piece.
How many are you releasing? Is this going into sort of general release then? So in the sense we can all get our hands on one, but they're not going to be sort of worth a lot of money 50 years down the line?
Yeah, they're going into general release, and we understand that our collectors really love to find those coins in their change. So this particular coin, we've got a mintage of 5 million and 70 pieces, the 70 being a nod to the Queen and her Jubilee. And they'll be going into 1.3 million will be going into post offices, as you say, from the 7th of February. And what we'll be looking to do is, as and when demand appears from the commercial banks and other post offices, then more will be issued over the next few months. But, there's still, if you think of the population of the UK, there will be a small amount, 5 million versus, 70-odd million of population. So it will be something special you can find in your change. If you're not able to find it in your change, fear not. You could come down to the Royal Mint in South Wales and you can strike your own. Or on our website, we have a different selection available.
Oh, tell us more.
Yeah.
Well, you'd be most welcome to come and join us. So we have a Royal Mint Experience Centre where you can come and immerse yourself in the history of the Royal Mint and how we manufacture coins. And at the end of the tour, there's an opportunity for you to come and strike your very own special Jubilee 50p coin. So please come down and join us.
That sounds fantastic.
It really does. Who designed it? It's a very classy design.
Yes, it was designed by Osborne Ross. We work with a number of different artists around the UK. We tend to run different competitions. And this is just a lovely, very neat, modern design that has a lovely sort of tint to Her Majesty in the 70 years that she's been on the throne.
It does seem a bit odd. I mean, odd in a nice way, though, but the fact you've got a 50p coin with a 70 written on the back.
That's true.
You can imagine a few tourists might get a bit confused by that.
It's a good point, and it's a great topic for conversation. And maybe to your earlier conversation, maybe there's a bit of controversy there around is it 70p or 50p? But I can confirm today it's definitely 50p, and the 70 is definitely linked to Her Majesty the Queen and her Jubilee.
It's interesting you said controversy as well. That's an interesting one.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Do they when you bring out these sort of slightly limited edition 50p's, do they go up in value? My son collected your lovely 2012 Olympic ones. I don't know. I don't think they've gone up beyond 50p themselves. But will this one? Do you think?
The face value is 50p, but as with anything, it's worth whatever anyone wants to pay for it. So this mintage to us is a regular mintage. We wouldn't suggest that necessarily this is going to go up above the 50p face value. So you never know. Who knows?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what might be worth a bit more, because I bet you're releasing the solid silver and the solid gold ones, are you?
Absolutely, and many of those have already sold out. They've been extremely popular. So, yeah, have a look on our website, see what's left. But certainly, coin collecting, it's not just this particular coin. We do lots of different coins across the year. And, there's something for everyone within that mix.
Oh, Mark.
Amazing
really
place
good
to work.
Yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it, all of that? Mark Loveridge from the Royal Mint, really good to talk to you this morning. If you've got a couple of spare, Mark, you want to send them down to us?
Yeah.
That'd be nice. Have you ever had one of those like the extra heavy solid silver coins and things that you can buy? They're lovely because they are so heavy in your hand.
But what's the point? I always think when you see them being advertised on the television, what's the point of having one? I suppose people just like to collect.
It's just a collector's thing, isn't it? And they do, because obviously they're worth a lot more money because they're precious metal.
Yeah.
So more than their face
Have you got
value.
one then?
No, I bought one for my brother though. I should have bought it for myself, shouldn't I?
Yes, yeah. But I think these 70 ones, I mean, because there's never been a platinum Jubilee ever.
No.
So it is historic for so many reasons. I think that's really nice. And it did seem to be a really classy design, didn't it?
Very nice, yeah. If you're listening on the radio this morning, you'll have to have a look.
Beautiful,
online.
classy 7-0 with the crown crest on one side, and then on the other side, Her Majesty on a horse, which is obviously what she must have approved that.
Yeah, it's lovely. She's very nice. Have a look online if you're on the radio this morning. Let's bring you up to date with the headlines, should we, at 11 minutes past 8. And the Russian Defence Minister has accepted an invitation to meet the UK Defence Secretary over the situation with Ukraine. Now, despite offering to meet in London, Ben Wallace will head to Moscow to discuss resolving the conflict between the countries. It comes after Downing Street warned Russia would be punished if the country pushes ahead with any destabilising action in Ukraine.
US police say the fatal shooting of a 31-year-old British astrophysicist in his bed appeared to be the result of reckless discharge. Dr. Matthew Wilson was found dead after being shot in an apartment block in Georgia whilst visiting his loved ones.
High street pharmacists will be able to refer obese people to a free online NHS weight loss programme. Previously, obese patients in England had to see a GP before they could access the 12-week course. Those with high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes or a BMI over 30 are being encouraged to speak to their pharmacists.
A new survey suggests that 1 in 3 drivers are unaware of changes to road rules which are aimed at protecting cyclists and pedestrians. 33% of motorists said they didn't know the highway code is being revamped, including 4% apparently who've got absolutely no intention of looking at the details anyway. The revised highway code comes into force next week.
The majority of Ireland's COVID restrictions have been lifted today. COVID passes no longer required to get entry to hospitality and entertainment outlets. Live events can return to full capacity. The move will also see an 8 p.m. curfew on hospitality being lifted.
And actor Idris Elba is said to be part of the conversation over who will replace Daniel Craig as the next James Bond. Speaking on a podcast, the film's producer, Barbara Broccoli, recognised that a lot of fans want to see him in a tuxedo. Other names in the mix are Tom Hardy, Richard Madden and Henry Cavill. But our money's on Idris Elba.
Yes. I'm just trying to find... I had a message in earlier on about Henry Cavill being... Oh, there you go. Yes, this is from Julia. Henry Cavill would get my vote as Bond every time because he is so yummy.
It's important, I think, that James Bond is yummy.
Well, you're quite right. It's got to be shaken
Pierce
and not
Brosnan,
stirred
Pierce
and all,
Brosnan was very
all that
yummy.
sort of thing. Do you like Pierce Brosnan?
Oh, yes, very yummy.
Yeah, I don't think he quite did it, though, for the...
Oh, he did it for me.
Oh, well, fair enough, Anne.
He was very yummy.
There you go. If you're watching Piers, better get you on.
Mind you, if you dress a gorgeous man up in a tuxedo, it adds something, doesn't it?
You can't go
And then
wrong.
you give him martini shaken, not stirred or something, and it just does it, doesn't it?
We
Does the
found
trick.
your weak point.
Why not?
Now, let's talk teeth. If you're up brushing your teeth this morning, the British Dental Association has said that NHS dentistry is hanging by a thread as waiting times exceed 2 years just for a checkup.
NHS dentistry in England and Wales has lost the equivalent of 8% of the total workforce due to the pandemic, with many practices now struggling to return to normal service.
Well, let's talk to Dr. Paul Woodhouse, General Dental Practitioner, and he sits on the board of the British Dental Association. Good to see you this morning.
Good morning.
I mean, look, 2 years wait for an NHS checkup is obviously no good at all, is it? I mean, is it ever going to get any better?
Oh, it's ridiculous, isn't it? You're supposed to be a first world country with a decent healthcare provision for our population. Waiting 2 years to get your teeth looked at is frankly ludicrous. But I contest the fact it's down to the pandemic. It's a snowball effect of the pandemic on top of a very, very poor NHS contract that needs urgent change.
So what is going to make the change? I mean, what will achieve any sort of change now? Because people have this idea that dentists just want to go private because they can make more money doing that.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate portrayal in the media, is that dentists are the bad guys and we're just after driving Porsches and living in £1 million houses. The honest truth is only government can change the contract. The contract we work under was introduced in 2006. The Health Select Committee said it wasn't fit for purpose in 2008. I'm not the best at maths, but that was quite a long time ago. And since then, government has piloted and prototyped various ways of trying to change that contract. They've ditched every single version because at the minute they've got a system that controls the spend on dentistry and limits the access of patients. And that seems to be a comfortable position for them. But if dentists leave the service because they can't tolerate working in it anymore, we look like the bad guys and the government don't get any hassle.
I mean, the problem is, though, for a lot of people, it's very hard even to track down an NHS dentist now.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the limitations in the contract is you can't actually just set up a dental practice. You have to be commissioned by a local area team from the NHS England. They have to allocate a pot of money and funding to you to provide NHS care. So an individual dentist can't strike up what we used to call a squat practice from scratch. If they don't commission the services, then there is no provision of services.
So just to get that straight for everybody listening and watching as well, is the reason that we don't appear to have enough NHS dentists, is it because there isn't enough, not enough money is being provided to make those practices work?
Absolutely. Historically, funding for NHS dentistry has only covered about 50% of the population anyway. Most of that funding now comes from the patient charges that are collected. So they're essentially a tax on getting your teeth looked at from the government. And if you are a young up-and-coming dentist fresh out of university, you want to provide NHS care, unless the local area team wants to commission NHS care, you cannot do it.
Well, it's a false economy, isn't it, in the sense that it's all well and good if people can't get the treatment on the NHS, they go private. But, of course, a lot of people just can't afford to and won't do that, so they're going to end up with very expensive, severe dental problems a few years down the line.
It's stupid, absolutely stupid. I've had patients who've had to use their winter heating payments to pay for dentures and things like that, and that's on the NHS with the NHS charges. It's a ridiculous system. The only people who really suffer in this are the patients, and that's just not on.
So are you effectively saying that NHS dentistry is the poor relation within the NHS?
Yeah, if we were the Cinderella story, we wouldn't even be Cinderella, we'd be the broom locked in the cupboard.
Gosh.
Blimmin' heck. Well, can I ask how this affects children? Because there's always been a lot of concern about the dental health of children, because if they start off badly, then that's the rest of their life down the pound when it comes to their dental health. I mean, presumably this is going to affect children pretty badly, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the current drive is we've been not ordered to, but encouraged to see urgent cases in children only and prioritise that over the care of our regular patients who, in my case, I've been looking after for 20 years. And so hopefully the children aren't getting left behind. But if people aren't providing NHS care in an area and parents can't afford to pay to go private for whatever reason, I mean, cost of living's going through the roof at the minute. And if you're prioritising eating versus eating, and getting teeth looked after might fall down that list of priorities, it will set up problems for the future. And you're right, the longer you leave a dental problem, the more complex it becomes, and complexity brings cost.
Yeah, OK. Dr. Paul Woodhouse, a dental practitioner, good to see you this
great
morning.
To talk to you.
I mean, it's just one of those issues, isn't it? That, I mean, you can forget about your teeth for a while. People can put it to the back of their mind, but you've got to look after them.
Oh, no, when they hurt, and you have to have a dentist.
Yeah.
I live in a village where there is a dental practice, but it's private, and they want to take NHS patients, and they cannot get the funding from the NHS to do so. We've got the local MP on it and everything, but still nothing's happened.
Yeah.
So that's a situation where a dentist wants to be able to take NHS patients, but can't.
It's all well and good if you can pay for private, but of course so many people can't.
And it does mount up, it gets very expensive privately.
Very quickly, yeah. Stay with us here on Breakfast. We've got plenty more to come for you, including looking at record court backlogs that have defendants waiting for more than a year for their case to be heard.
Good morning. Dry but drab kind of sums up the weekend for most of us. It will be fairly cloudy, but a few places seeing a bit of blue sky. And say most of us are not going to see much rain thanks to high pressure. Now, the main exception to that dry story will be northwest Scotland. There's a weakening weather fronts which will bring at times some rain to particularly the Highlands, Argyll and Bute through the day today. But even that's pushing south, so Caithness, Sutherland and Northern Isles may well brighten up. We'll see some sunny spells across eastern England, eastern Scotland and across the south. There'll be at times some breaks in the cloud to reveal a bit of blue sky, but for most it will just stay cloudy but dry with light winds, certainly across the south. Always quite breezy across the north, but it is here where we'll see the top temperatures, 11, maybe 12 Celsius if we see some brightness, say on the Moray Firth. Elsewhere, a little warmer than yesterday, 8-9 degrees, but of course most of us won't have the sunshine. Through this evening, we'll keep a lot of cloud, which will again help prevent a frost in most places. Where skies stay clear, parts of northeast England, eastern Scotland, again, temperatures could at least for a time drop down to freezing. Still a brisk breeze in the northwest and a bit of drizzly rain here, but for most it stays dry. And again, as I said, temperatures generally holding up, certainly in towns and cities, a few degrees above zero. On to Sunday, and it's a very similar story to Saturday. Again, some drizzle likely in the northwest during tomorrow, but apart from that, and maybe the odd spot over hills elsewhere, most places dry and cloudy. But again, some breaks likely in the cloud, parts of northeast Wales, northeast England, and again, northeast Scotland may well see some sunny spells. And if we do, temperatures again could get to double digits, but for most we're looking at 8 or 9 Celsius. This area of high pressure is sticking around through the weekend and indeed into next week. Again, weather fronts may bring some patchy rain at times, particularly to the northwest, but for most, this area of high pressure promising to keep more dry weather across the country well into next week.
Hello there, I'm Eamon.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world. If
you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
It is 8:25. Welcome back. This is Breakfast with Stephen and Anne on your TV and on your radio. If you're listening to us, if you're heading out to football practice this morning, which I know some people are.
Some people are indeed, yes. It's very nice to... Yeah, tweet us a picture as well. We'd love to see what it's like where you are.
Yes, let's see your faces, actually. I don't know who we're talking to.
I know it's a bit early in the morning, but, you know, you see our faces. Why can't we see yours?
We've had half an hour in makeup, though, to be fair.
Don't give it away, yeah.
Now, this is a bit of a shocker, isn't it?
This is a shocker, yeah. You go ahead.
It could take up to 708 days to go from an offence to the completion of a case as court backlogs reach a record high.
That's nearly 2 years, isn't it? The figures are a real blow to the Ministry of Justice, who've been unable to recover from the massive build-up of serious crime cases during the pandemic, of course. They're all still waiting to be dealt with by judges.
Well, let's talk to Stephanie Boyce, President of the Law Society of England and Wales. Good to see you this morning. Look, there's some very real practical problems with the backlog building up like this, isn't there?
Well, absolutely. You know, the figures reveal a record proportion of Crown Court cases that are outstanding for more than a year. And that is a record high since 2014. And these lengthy delays means that defendants are waiting too long. Defendants, witnesses, victims are waiting too long to get the justice they deserve.
Is there any way of prioritising, or are they already prioritising which ones are going to be brought forward?
We understand that, obviously, the less complex cases, those that can be dealt with quickly, are being brought forward, and that has contributed to some of the reduction in the backlog of cases. But the fact that there are just under 60,000 cases backlogged in the Crown Court is a significant number. And of course, to put that into context, what that means is that the lengthy delays cause a traumatised victim can be left waiting years to see their assailant locked up, while an innocent defendant can find their life in limbo while they wait to have their name cleared.
Yeah, I was going to say there's clearly a lot of focus on the victims of crime in all of this, which is quite right. But as you say, for those people who have been falsely accused, I mean, that is a very long time. It's almost like serving a sentence as they just wait to get to court.
Well, absolutely. And for some people who are perhaps, in jail whilst they're waiting for their case to be heard, others on bail, those are real implications on their liberty. It possibly could affect their livelihood, their ability to work, where they live. So those are real implications on individuals that these lengthy delays are causing.
I mean, what can be done about it? There's only so many lawyers, there's only so many judges actually to preside. How can this be expedited to try and get rid of the backlog?
Well, what is needed is serious investment in the justice system, in the criminal justice system, and that is needed now. So we've had the Independent Criminal Legal Aid Review by Sir Christopher Bellamy, who has recommended a 15% increase in criminal legal aid rates. And just to put this into context, these rates have not increased significantly in the last 25 years. That effectively is a pay freeze for solicitors, those working in the criminal legal aid area for the last 25 years. So what is needed is this government has had the review, it's had the report from Sir Christopher. And what we say is investment is needed now, and the government needs to invest in our criminal justice system to ensure timely justice for all those concerned.
Well, whereas that may well be a perfectly valid point, if you say if there's not been a pay rise for that length of time, then that does make a difference to the individuals involved. But how would paying people more through legal aid speed up the system?
Well, how it speeds up the system is that we know that through the fact that there has been no significant increase in criminal legal aid rates in the last 25 years, has seen some parts of this country, up and down England and Wales, where individuals will struggle to get a solicitor, representation, legal advice when they need it. We also know that there is an issue in terms of retention and recruitment of those solicitors, those coming into the criminal justice arena. So investing in our justice system will ensure that those who come into the system will stay in the system, and that will ensure that the backlog is starting to clear and those who are caught up in the justice system are represented.
So this backlog isn't just about the pandemic, is it? I remember reading at the very beginning of the pandemic headlines saying, you know, we're going to build up a real backlog of cases here. There are people sitting in jail at the moment who should be having their cases heard, etc. You must have warned the government about that this would happen. Did anyone listen?
Well, quite right. Although the pandemic has worsened, exacerbated recent events, the backlog in the criminal courts predates the pandemic. And that is primarily because of the underinvestment that has continued for years. And we, the Law Society, have been calling on government to invest in our justice system. You know, so whilst we have, including the removal of the capping of the number of court days, but also investment in our court infrastructure, we have court closures. So that means that individual citizens are having to travel further to attend court. We also have, through the underinvestment in the justice system, that the number of judges are starting to leave the service. So this has been going on, quite rightly, this has been going on for a number of years. And unless we have that investment, that continuous, consistent investment in our justice system, this will continue. The backlog will grow.
OK. I, Stephanie Boyce, President of the Law Society of England and Wales. Really good to talk to you this morning. Thank you.
Thank you. Gosh. So that's the other thing. We've got to have more investment in our criminal justice system. We've got to have more investment in NHS dentists.
And in the NHS as a whole.
Who would want to be Prime Minister at the moment? How do you juggle all this? Rishi Sunak, maybe?
I know. Well, we shall see. We could do with speaking to the Chancellor. I wonder if he'll come on the show.
Yes.
Stay with us. We've got plenty more still to come, including a good look through the papers. Stay with us.
Hello there, I'm Eamon.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
It's 8:34. This is Breakfast with Stephen and Anne on your TV and on your radio right across the UK and further afield, actually.
Further afield, yes, all across the world. Well, Malta we know about and Spain this morning. So hello to everybody, wherever you're watching or wherever you're listening. Shall we have a look through today's front pages? The Times writes that Prime Minister Boris Johnson has reinstated his Tory leadership team to save his premiership as fears grow that a no-confidence vote is inevitable.
Well, Boris Johnson facing calls to ensure all evidence on the Downing Street parties is published alongside the results of the Sue Gray inquiry. It's their front page story this morning.
The Daily Express reports a wonder pill that fights both coronavirus and flu and say it could be the next exciting new secret weapon in the fight against the virus.
The iWeekend says the government's actively considering a pause to mandatory coronavirus vaccines for NHS workers over fears that mass sackings will damage patient care.
The Daily Mail reports MPs and business leaders have said a planned hike in national insurance this April must be stopped to help families survive a cost of living crisis.
People can't afford any more.
No.
The Attorney General is looking for an injunction against the BBC to prevent the broadcaster allegedly identifying a spy working overseas. That's in the Telegraph for you today.
And the Daily Mirror pays tribute to what it calls the end of a rock legend. That's after bat out of hell singer Meatloaf died, they say, of coronavirus.
This is the strangest one of the day. I still haven't grabbed the paper yet.
I just wonder why they have reported it.
I don't know. It's the Daily Star saying that hardman Russian President Vladimir Putin has scared off extraterrestrials by being too rough.
Yeah, the headline is, "It's intergalactic geopolitics, Jim, but not as we know it." Who thinks these things up?
No idea. It's extraordinary. Anyway.
You could be rude, but don't. Financial Times Weekend reports that Netflix lost $35 billion in market value on Wall Street's opening bell.
Ouch. Let's go through the papers in a bit more detail with journalist and author Nikki Hodgson and broadcaster David Hamilton. A joy to see you both once again. David, let's start with the Mail, should we? And Andrew Marr, why he's left the Beeb.
Yes, Andrew Marr has revealed in the Mail today why he left the BBC. And he says it's because he couldn't give his opinion about anything. He couldn't talk about the royals, he couldn't talk about the PM or the licence fee. So he should be at GBNews. And he could express his opinion.
He should be.
That's extraordinary. I can imagine that what he's really referring to is that somebody laid down an edict.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, he does express his views when he's on, but I mean, maybe not. But maybe somebody at the BBC obviously laid down. The BBC does tend to do this from time to time.
Restricted.
They write out a rules.
Yeah, he felt restricted, and now he's able to let himself go. He might be touting for another gig. You never know.
It sounds to me as though he is.
Well, he was. I mean, to be fair though, he did present a political show where you know, neutrality in that sense, in the traditional media sense, would have to be observed. That can't have come as any surprise to him. I don't know.
No, he's worked inside the BBC for a very long time.
It's supposed to be more neutral, although it may not be, but it's supposed to be more than other channels.
Yes, I mean, it is the state broadcaster, if you like, although that's a very old-fashioned term, but and it should be. I mean, in my view, all journalistic outlets should be, but they do. The BBC bosses sometimes really do get up. Oh, you've worked there for yonks. I mean, they get up your nose a bit by coming out occasionally with memos and emails and
I used to work for the BBC when they were very careful with their money, and I remember when I did Top of the Pops. You know how much I got paid? It was a national TV show.
A big TV.
15 million viewers, £90.
You got £90 for presenting Top of the Pops?
It wasn't even good money in those days.
I thought you were going to say £15 million.
No, but they were very, very careful. Yes. And in those days, what we did was we had to go out doing the gigs to earn any decent money because the BBC... But suddenly, I don't know when, but at some point or other it changed. And then along came Gary Lineker.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the BBC gets criticised no matter what it does.
It does.
Doesn't it?
It does.
Everybody likes to kick the BBC.
Well, mind you, why shouldn't we? We pay for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Licence fee.
But isn't it nice to be able to say, you know, what you think and you know, on a nice channel too, where you're nice about people and you're uplifting and everybody feels good.
Oh. Well, we disagree at times, but we do it in a grown-up way.
That's the way.
That's
forward.
our phrase.
It's the way to do it. What about a 4-day week, Nikki, in the Telegraph? I mean, I have to say, we're very fortunate. I've only worked a 4-day week for the last 25 years. So.
Yeah, well, I have actually as well for the past couple. I mean, gosh, it's controversial because all the studies that are coming out about it, there's a trial that's been done in Iceland, for example, are saying that people are more productive if they work fewer days. But people have to cram more into that time. It's not that they're having a day's work cut for the same pay. And obviously, depending on what kind of caring responsibilities you've got or how you're looking after your kids, it might actually be more stressful. So, you know, I think it's great that we are going to trial it because we know there's been this this announcement that 40 companies, including Morrison's and Unilever, are going to test it for 6 months in the UK. It'll be so fascinating to see that research come back. But I do think there are some really old-fashioned people that still think, oh, people only want to work a little bit. Well, like, you know, where do they think they're living? You know, what planet do they think they're on?
No, it's just about managing your time, isn't it? And the graphic that we're showing at the moment, just for people who are listening on the radio, it's the way they've tried to show what a 4-day week looks like. You've got 4 office chairs and 3 pints of beer.
Yeah, 3 days to
which
drink. Which
suggests that when you're off, all you do is booze.
That's probably about right, isn't it, David?
I think there's a certain amount of that has been going on. Can I just say that anything Nikki says that I definitely agree with, because backstage she's told me, you wouldn't believe it to look at her, she's a boxer.
What?
So
I feel he's having this up a little bit, over-egging the pudding, maybe. No, I like doing boxing training.
Yeah.
And this has made David very nervous around me.
Quite right, David.
No,
Give him a bash.
Do you want to swap seats?
It's Tuesday, it's Tuesday.
Yeah, absolutely. Quite right.
I mean, actually, that was quite interesting. Why the boxing? Is it just because it's a good way of keeping fit, or
It's
is
the
it
best exercise.
Is it
It's
self-defense?
punishing. No, it's punishing. Actually, I do quite like hitting things, though.
Oh.
You don't really get the opportunity
Just like that,
in
she
everyday
says,
life,
I do quite like hitting things.
In a
but it does
controlled
get
environment that's acceptable, you know.
It gets rid of a lot of aggression, and it's incredible how you really. I think because you just enjoy doing it.
You
work
box
up.
it too.
I have done it, and it's brilliant
You
fun.
can see why I agree. Do either of you two like golf? Do you play golf at all?
I've never played.
I've always wanted to be that sort of person,
'Cause
but I've never had the time.
I've got a lovely story for you about a golfer. He is 86, and he's just got 3 holes in one in 3 months at the age of 86.
Wow.
I'll tell you his name. His name is John King. He plays at Cirencester Golf Club, and apparently the odds on doing it are 50,000 to 1.
Wow. He should do the lottery while he's feeling so lucky.
He's a hot shot.
I wish you could see the pit if you're on the radio, because he doesn't look 86.
No.
No, he doesn't.
Clearly
No.
keeping him young.
He's wonderful. You see, there's hope for
Do you
us all.
play golf?
And no, I don't, but I've actually found somebody who's older than me. Yeah.
I don't ask. Can I ask how old you are?
I'm 83, actually.
Are you
Yes,
really?
83, yeah.
And people still remember you as Diddy David.
Yeah, thank you. If you want to know the secret, Anne, I know you want to know this, the secret is clean living.
No.
Oh, is it? Oh,
I was
Anne,
afraid you'd say that.
No, we don't want to hear that.
I can recommend it to you both.
What do you mean by clean living, though,
Well, I'll
David?
leave it to your judgment to decide on that.
I don't know.
But I mean, it's not a 4-day week, because there were times when you worked a 7-day week. You were on everything all the time.
I did. But I've advocated a 4-day week for a long time. And I think if you could have a 3-day weekend, if it could be done that way...
Makes a huge difference.
Yes, what a difference that would make.
Yes,
And,
you can
you
go
know,
places and do things, and you can actually relax.
I should be in politics, shouldn't I, really?
Why not?
I should be running the country.
Well,
I
the
could do a better
vacancy
job.
coming up soon, David.
Yeah.
I was going to say, have you ever actually retired?
No, no, because it keeps my brain active. You know, I love getting up like today at 3 o'clock in the morning.
You know you're still working when you do that, you know.
I tell you what, that's not bad for 83.
No, it's blinking
Getting up at
brilliant.
this
Well done.
ridiculous hour that we have to do all this. Let's go to the younger end of the table, David, for one from Nikki. A dating app. You're not on dating apps, David, are you?
Dating? No. Well, I don't think my wife would like that.
Good.
Good
morning.
The polite answer.
So what's going on with dating apps,
Well,
Nikki?
this is a funny story. I don't know if anyone's seen this billboard that says "Find Malik a wife."
Yes, I have.
You seen
yes.
them? They've been around in London and Birmingham. Very lovely chap advertising, saying I'm sick of being single. Well, when I saw it, I thought, oh, how sweet. What, you know, he's brilliant. He's put his money where his mouth is. He's really going for it. But it turns out that it's a stunt, and it's actually being paid for by a dating app called Muzzmatch. So it's kind of taken a bit of shine off the story. Because when you click on the link now, it takes you through to the Muzzmatch website, and the idea is that, oh, well, you know, because, you know, people can still apply, but I sort of think, oh, I feel like...
I thought it was one guy who'd taken the initiative.
That's what we thought too, yeah.
So it isn't. It's a
little bit sad.
advert for a dating app. Oh, well.
Yeah.
It's all a bit of a con.
Yeah,
Never
a bit of a
mind.
con.
It still might connect a few people.
I hope so.
If you're into that sort of thing. There you go. Not for
I
you,
don't know
Dave.
how anybody meets anybody these days, because with COVID, how does anybody actually? I'm glad I'm 83 and I'm not 20 anymore, because I would have, at that time, I would have hated it. I mean, it's okay for me being at home all the time now, but when you're young and you want to get out and about,
yes, I think it was particularly rough on young people.
How does anybody
really bad?
Yeah, don't know. Twitter.
Yeah.
This isn't quite the same, is it?
It isn't really, but people do.
Never know what you're getting, do you?
Well, you don't. But you might strike gold. You might strike gold. You never know. David,
you might not.
Well, Nikki Hodgson, thank you both very much
You're
indeed.
welcome.
You've enjoyed yourself
I've
this
enjoyed
morning.
myself tremendously.
Oh, good.
It's been for ages.
Now, you may not know this, but major changes are planned to the highway code this year, and several highway organisations are also concerned that the public is just unaware of it all.
Yeah, the changes include rules, apparently, on drivers having more responsibility to watch out for people cycling, walking or riding a horse. And cyclists will have more responsibility themselves to be aware of pedestrians.
Let's talk to Barry Siegel, author of Barry Siegel's Quick Guide to Fight Your Parking Ticket. Barry, good to see you this morning. You know, you had to battle all these things if we get caught on the wrong side of it all. Well, what is changing? Yes. How significant is it?
Well, they're posted as significant, but in many cases, they're just pure common sense. For example, you're not supposed to drive and turn left in front of a motorcyclist. I've never done that in all my driving experience, and I imagine 99% of motorists don't. It's really codifying more of what is common sense. It is putting in a hierarchy of responsibility. So pedestrians are the main ones where you have to take particular care. Cyclists are next, motorcyclists are next, horses, and then motor vehicles. But it is common sense, really. The problem is that not many people have read the highway code, and I don't know if it's still the case, but when I took my driving test, when I had hair, in those days, you had to know the highway code and answer questions on it.
Well, you still do have to know your highway code when you do your test. But the trouble is, you then, I mean, most people just don't know anything of it after that. I mean, how many years is it since any of us passed our driving test? And isn't it odd, don't you find, that nobody seems to know about this change or these extra highway codes that are being brought in?
Well, it hasn't been very well publicised, and that's a major problem. It would be nice if the government or the Department for Transport actually highlighted these changes. As I say, they're mostly common sense, but it is important. For example, there are 19 rules which have been amended or added relating to cyclists, which is very important. So my advice to everybody is to read the highway code. It's very well written. It's very clear and unambiguous. And I think it may just save lives and problems that people have with crashes and that sort of thing. I think the key thing on the road is to be courteous to pedestrians, courteous to cyclists, courteous to fellow motorists. And that is one of the problems I think we face in the modern times. And in some small measure, this change or additional points in the highway code will, I hope, make that difference.
Yeah. Oh, well, let's hope so. Maybe we should all do a refresher course.
It's about being aware, I think, isn't it? And thinking of others. Barry, can I just ask you before we say goodbye, are you still the go-to man for, if you get a parking ticket that you absolutely don't agree with, but you don't know what to do? You used to be very well known for being the go-to man for all that sort of thing.
Well, I've been doing it for 19 years, and I think the fact that I've lost so much hair demonstrates that. But I still will take a very active interest in parking tickets and those sort of things.
Absolute expert at it, you are.
Drive you mad, don't they? Barry Siegel, really good to talk to you this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, the North York Moors Railway, one of Yorkshire's best-known tourism attractions, 100 full-time staff, 600 volunteers, and it stretches for miles through the North York Moors National Park with some idyllically preserved stations that you may have seen on Harry Potter or Indiana Jones.
Yeah, but due to the pandemic, the charity struggled to survive, which led to the launch of fundraising campaigns and national appeals. Our reporter Anna Riley reports on how the famous tourist destination has rewritten its future after grappling with the virus for almost 2 years now.
The North Yorkshire Moors Railway is the UK's largest preserved heritage railway, carrying more than 300,000 passengers each year and injecting an estimated 45 million into the county's economy. Born from a railway preservation society, the not-for-profit organisation is run and maintained by a dedicated network of volunteers and staff who plan and maintain the train service and its 18-mile infrastructure. But despite its vintage, it nearly fell into ruin as a result of the multiple lockdowns imposed by the pandemic.
We had a tough time during the pandemic. There was one period where we had a £4 million hole in our finances and we genuinely didn't know what was going to happen. And thankfully, things like the furlough scheme came along. We also got money from the Arts Council and places like that. So fundamentally, it came together in the end, but it was a very difficult and stressful period for us all. We've had to look at ourselves as a business. It's time for us to look at actually what we do for public benefit, not just for our own benefit and not for the benefit of just the people travelling on us, but for the wider public benefit. And look at the fact that we are a charity. We've been a charity since 1974, and make sure that we actually are relevant to people and society.
The popular tourist destination could become one of the last places in Britain to burn lump coal, and this may mean more of a focus on education at the railway for a coming generation that may never lay eyes on coal outside of a museum.
What we're hoping to be is the place that burns coal, to explain why Britain burnt coal, why the world burnt coal, so that it is a relevance. It is seen as something that teaches us about the past, and actually that whilst coal is acknowledged to be something that definitely is environmentally damaging, and there's no getting away from that, that's a fact, we can't change that, but fundamentally it still was the building block of our past and to a certain extent the industrial future of the world. You know, it was the foundation, it was the power that built everything, and we're a graphic interpretation of that. And that is still something that's important. It's still important that we remember why we burnt coal. We can't forget that. So if we burn a relatively small amount and we're still able to educate people, I still think we have a place in the world going forward.
So for a thriving future of the North York Moors Railway, it's set to be far more charitable than businesslike in its objectives, with a focus on its people and a recognition of its purpose in education and preserving an important piece of British history. Anna Riley, GB News, Gromont.
From Gromont to Hollywood, or something like that. Yeah. Let's get all the latest...
Well, Gromont is in Hollywood when you think of all the movies it's been in.
Well, that's very good. Yeah. Oh, very good point. Let's get all the latest showbiz news from Stephanie Tetchy, who's here. Good morning.
Good morning, Stephen and Anne.
Look, we've got to talk Adele, haven't we?
Oh, my gosh. Adele should be waking up this morning, having achieved her first Las Vegas residency, and instead she's waking up to a backlash from fans who are demanding that she pays for their flights that they've spent to get to Las Vegas, their hotels and the tickets. Fans have paid anywhere between £100 up to £20,000 just to see Adele in her first show in Las Vegas. And obviously she cancelled it last minute, so a lot of fans are not happy with what's happened.
Why has she cancelled it?
There's so many, specifically she said it's down to delivery and most of her team being plagued by COVID, but now more reports are coming out as saying, is it stage fright? Is it anxiety? She's been very vocal about that. She's not a big stage performer, and she doesn't need to be. Adele could put music videos out, sell tracks, we would be happy. But this might have been too much of a big task for her to handle.
She was very, very tearful when she recorded that little video to her fans saying, I'm so sorry, I'm terribly sorry, but the show just ain't good enough, sort of thing. But, I mean, yeah, I can understand her fans. I mean, we've heard about so many fans who flew out there to Las Vegas just to see Adele.
Definitely.
And in a way, she can afford it. Maybe she should reimburse them.
She should. And to be honest, guys, this is not the first time Adele has pulled out last minute. In 2017, she done that with 2 stadium shows at Wembley, and she pulled out last minute due to a problem with her vocal cords. And it took 4 years for them to reschedule that show again. So there's talks that this show might not come back until maybe June, or maybe next year, because she's got a packed schedule.
Because she's not just delayed the start of it, she's cancelled the whole lot.
That is the problem. You know, it would be okay if she says, OK, just this week we're not going to do it, but she's cancelled the whole 24 dates up till April. She's due to come to the Brits in February, and then she's got other shows at Hyde Park this year, so how is she going to fit Las Vegas in?
I mean, her fans absolutely adore her, and for them to be this angry with her really says something. She's misjudged this, hasn't she?
She really has, and, you know, I feel sorry for her because she's getting the flack for it, but mostly it's probably down to production, to her management team, so there's a bigger thing going on, but she is the star of the show and she will get the blame, unfortunately, for this one.
Oh, it is a shame. It's a shame all round, you've got to say.
Yes.
Look, I know you've got loads more showbiz for us, so we're going to drag you back next hour.
I will be back.
We're going to give you a full 25 minutes.
Oh. Ooh. Well, there is lots of showbiz news around today.
OK, stay with us. We've got lots more still to come for you in just a moment. Don't go anywhere.
Good morning. Dry but drab kind of sums up the weekend for most of us. It will be fairly cloudy, but a few places seeing a bit of blue sky. And as I say, most of us are not going to see much rain thanks to high pressure. Now, the main exception to that dry story will be northwest Scotland. There's a weakening weather fronts, which will bring at times some rain to particularly the Highlands, Argyll and Bute through the day today. But even that's pushing south, so Caithness, Sutherland and Northern Isles may well brighten up. We'll see some sunny spells across eastern England, eastern Scotland and across the south. There'll be at times some breaks in the clouds, reveal a bit of blue sky, but for most it will just stay cloudy. But dry with light winds, certainly across the south. Always quite breezy across the north, but it is here where we'll see the top temperatures, 11, maybe 12 Celsius if we see some brightness, say on the Moray Firth. Elsewhere, a little warmer than yesterday, 8-9 degrees, but of course, most of us won't have the sunshine. Through this evening, we'll keep a lot of cloud, which will again help prevent a frost in most places. Where skies stay clear, parts of northeast England, eastern Scotland, again, temperatures could, at least for time, drop down to freezing. Still a brisk breeze in the northwest and a bit of drizzly rain here, but for most it stays dry. And again, as I said, temperatures generally holding up, certainly in towns and cities, a few degrees above zero. On to Sunday, and it's a very similar story to Saturday. Again, some drizzle likely in the northwest during tomorrow, but apart from that, and maybe the odd spot over hills elsewhere, most places dry and cloudy. But again, some breaks likely in the cloud, parts of northeast Wales, northeast England, and again, northeast Scotland may well see some sunny spells. And if we do, temperatures again could get to double digits, but for most we're looking at 8 or 9 Celsius. This area of high pressure is sticking around through the weekend and indeed into next week. Again, weather fronts may bring some patchy rain at times, particularly to the northwest, but for most, this area of high pressure promising to keep more dry weather across the country well into next week.
Hello there, I'm Eamon.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
Good morning, it's 9 o'clock on the 22nd of January. It's a Saturday. This is Breakfast on GB News with Stephen and Anne.
We're live across the whole of the UK on your TV and your radio, whether you're watching us in Dungannon in Northern Ireland or listening to us in Penzance. Maybe you're watching us on YouTube in Perth. Wherever you are, you can take us out and about with you these days.
Yeah, I know some people are also catching up via the GB News app whilst travelling to work. You could even be a Brit abroad, so we're there for you too. And I know we've got people in Malta and Spain watching this morning, probably elsewhere too. So let's see what's coming up this morning on Breakfast with Stephen and Anne.
Well, you may have heard this week about an ingenious plan to rescue a dog involving a drone and a sausage.
It's a brilliant one, this.
We'll speak to the dog's owner to get the full story.
As war in Ukraine looks more likely every day, we're going to ask legendary war correspondent Martin Bell what it's like to report from such a war zone.
And we'll take a look at the latest showbiz news from Adele to the return of Wallace and Gromit with Stephanie Tecci a little bit later on.
And of course, you know, don't you, you can join in any of our discussions by emailing us gbviews@gbnews.uk or tweet @gbnews.
And it is really nice to know where you are this morning, wherever you are in the UK or further abroad. I'm just going to show you this one from Paddler, who's been in touch this morning. It said, "Morning, Stephen and Anne. I've been here in Mae Pim in Thailand for 2 months, and I still haven't decided whether I should jog a beach first or swim it." Let's have a look. See where she is.
Oh! For those of you listening on the radio, you can imagine it. It's the most beautiful, beautiful sight. This long, gorgeous beach with a beautiful blue sea just lapping at the edge of the beach.
Oh!
Oh, and there's
Paddler.
Oh, Paddler, we're so jealous.
Oh, stop showing off, Paddler.
How are you watching us? On the app?
Must be on the app, I guess.
Yeah.
It's incredible the fact you can watch anything anywhere nowadays.
It really is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Extraordinary. Oh, that is just... Beat that, if you can.
On,
GB Views at GB News.
On that beach. I love it. Elaine's been in touch. Breakfast with Stephen and Anne, she says, warm, engaging, informative, professional and natural chemistry. We'll be watching every weekend. That's what we want to hear.
Yes. Vivian Dawson from Stockport, hi Vivian, says, what a fabulously interesting guest David Hamilton is. He should be on TV more often. You're absolutely right. Somebody with an absolutely incredible... Did you say he was 83?
83.
But an incredible experience and a career going back so many decades, actually. He's been there and done it, hasn't he?
That's what I love when I get to meet people. I never get starstruck now. I've been in the business too long. You sort of meet all the people, don't you? But when you meet people who have been in this business for such a long time and just know how it all works... Now, that's phenomenal.
You must have met somebody or come across somebody where your jaw does drop and you think, I mean, that is just somebody you almost pinch... You have to pinch yourself.
3 people,
Go
I
on,
would say.
who?
3 people. Patrick Moore.
Oh, yes.
Who I got to interview down the line.
Wonderful.
So, Patrick Moore.
I went to his house once.
Did you?
And he's got these amazing telescopes all in the garden.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I would have loved to have actually met him in the flesh.
He was lovely.
Dame Vera Lynn, who I talked to, who just made me think of my grandma.
Yeah.
And Mike Reed.
Oh, yes.
Who used to come and do the papers on my show. And it was just the fact that I grew up watching Swap Shop and Saturday Superstore, and then he was on my show. And you just think,
I know.
wow.
I know. You all get starstruck by things. When I trained at the BBC yonks and yonks ago, I was a trainee, I got into the lift at Television Centre, and Richard Baker, who used to read the news, do you remember?
Yes, Richard
He was
Baker.
in there, and I went, oh, hello! He obviously he didn't know me, but I knew him because he was in my living room every evening. And I just went completely stupid. Oh, hello, and then died of embarrassment.
It's nice, though.
Yeah.
I think it's nice to show a little bit of normality.
Oh, yeah.
Like
Actually, we'd
that.
love to hear from you. If you've met somebody that knocks your socks off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it'd be really good. gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Nowadays,
Now-
you'd take a selfie, wouldn't you?
Oh, now, yeah, just
You'd always
grab a picture.
stop and say, but if you've ever met somebody who's really knocked your socks off and you can't believe you've met them, yes, let us know. It'd be nice to hear.
Would be. Now, to change tack somewhat
Completely.
and to serious, very serious matters, actually, because we don't know what's going to happen moving forward. The United States and Russia are still in a standoff over Ukraine. They haven't made a breakthrough during diplomatic negotiations.
Yeah, and fears have been raised that an invasion by Russia is imminent, as the West has refused to accept Moscow's demand that Ukraine, a former Soviet republic, of course, will never be allowed to join NATO.
Well, President Biden spoke earlier this week, but appeared to suggest that he would allow minor incursions into Ukraine.
Well, yesterday...
Russia will be held accountable if it invades, and it depends on what it does. It's one thing if it's a minor incursion and then we end up having a fight about what to do and not do, etc. But if they actually do what they're capable of doing with the force amassed on the border, it is going to be a disaster for Russia.
You said that Russia would be held accountable if it invades, and it depends on what it does. Are you saying that a minor incursion by Russia into Ukrainian territory would not lead to the sanctions that you have threatened? Or are you effectively giving Putin permission to make a small incursion into the country?
Good question. That's how it did sound like, didn't it? The most important thing to do, big nations can't bluff, number one. Number two, the idea that we would do anything to split NATO, which would have a profound impact on profound impact on one of Putin's objectives is to weaken NATO, would be a big mistake.
Well, that was President Biden. And yesterday, Foreign Secretary Liz Truss had this warning to the Russian state.
The Kremlin haven't learnt the lessons of history. They dream of recreating the Soviet Union or a kind of greater Russia, carving up territory based on ethnicity and language. They claim they want stability while they work to threaten and destabilize others. We know what lies down that path and the terrible toll in lives lost and human suffering it brings. That's why we urge President Putin to desist and step back from Ukraine before he makes a massive strategic mistake.
Let's talk to Martin Bell, former BBC war correspondent. Really good to see you this morning, Martin. I mean, look, when you listen to all of this rhetoric, and it's very strong rhetoric in many respects, but there's no indication of exactly what will happen should the Russian troops really start some sort of incursion.
I think it's common in a theoretical war zone or soon-to-be war zone. A lot of diplomatic saber-rattling goes on. I'm minded of the run-up to the 6 Days War between Israel and its neighbors in 1967. And too often, sooner or later, the war does begin. And the technology is such now that I think it'll probably be over one way or another fairly quickly.
How do you read it? What do you think will happen next?
I think it unlikely that the Russians will build up on the scale that they have in order to do nothing. These things generate a momentum of their own. I think there will be some kind of action on the borders. I think it was probably very unwise to suggest that a minor incursion might be acceptable. I guess it's going to be more than that, and it could come any day now. Remembering that the Ukrainians have got a formidable army of their own. It's about 4 or 5 times the size of the British army, so they are in some sense ready for it.
Well, yes, exactly. It doesn't leave us out of it, does it? I mean, British troops are involved in training the Ukrainian army, so I mean there's going to be an international implication, a British implication, whether we want it or not, should it happen.
Yes, that is true. I think it's a relatively small number, but yes, they could well be in harm's way. And I think and if they're training, they have to stay to do the training. You don't just send the equipment without the trainers in a case like this.
I mean, ordinary people at home at the moment may not be as well versed in international politics and war as you are, but they'll be wondering just how frightened should we be? If there is a war, how will it affect us?
Well, it would obviously affect the families of the British soldiers who have been deployed there. It affects the NATO alliance. It affects the stability of Europe, East and West. I think it's an extremely alarming prospect. If you consider that people of my generation have lived in relative peace within our national boundaries now since the Second World War, but the number of conflagrations seems to be increasing around the world and the intensity of them. I mean, I would reckon towards the end of my career to go to war, to be in a war zone at least once a year. And one of these wars, the war in Bosnia, lasted for 3.5 years. So this is not a short-lived experiment, so to speak.
It's part of the issue here, and obviously there's a great deal of international concern. But Vladimir Putin is very much the strong man and does play to that sort of image. I mean, he's just not the type of person to back down from this if this is what he wants.
I would agree with that. Russia has nearly always, or before that, the Soviet Union has been, and before that, you had a Tsar. I suppose that Putin is in some ways a modern Tsar. He cultivates a tough guy image. The Russians were very bruised by the collapse of the Soviet Union, the Cold War, which they lost. And what's at stake here, I think, is pride, dignity, respect, and that's why they want to keep Ukraine so far as possible within their sphere of influence. They've lost so much, and I know it's a generation ago, but it's still felt, I imagine, very deeply in what used to be the Soviet Union.
Martin, we've got to move on, but before we let you go, can I just ask you what you make of the political situation at home at the moment? I mean, you stopped being a war correspondent to become a politician. You were MP for Tatton, weren't you? Standing on an anti-sleaze ticket. So you must know a bit of the shenanigans that goes on at the moment behind the scenes. What do you make of what's going to happen within the Tory party and government at the moment?
You mean talking of war zones? I see what you mean. I think what's happening is in itself quite alarming. I was elected in 1997 on an issue of integrity in public life, and I think the situation now is, if anything, worse than it was then. You know, I sat on the committee that looks into complaints against MPs who are said to have acted unethically. And in every case, it was a cross-party committee. I don't know how party it was, but in every case, our recommendations were accepted by the full House of Commons. What you had in early November was an attempt to change the rules unilaterally. So I think it is serious, and I also think that the Prime Minister is in an incredibly precarious situation, and I would expect more of those letters to be put in sometime next week.
Well, keep a very close eye on that. Yes. Martin Bell, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you. My goodness, there's an experienced man too.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, been there, done that, hasn't he, with just about everything you can think of.
Been a war correspondent and come out surviving. Yeah. And then plunging into politics.
Which, of course, he did for 4 years, but then, of course, really would have stayed on longer, but he's given that commitment to only do one term and so pulled out.
And Martin, he must have had a wardrobe full of those white suits.
White suits.
So well known, always standing in the middle of a war zone in a white suit. Yeah. Extraordinary.
Took some dry cleaning. But sticking with the politics side of things, because the former Conservative, now Labour MP for Bury South, Christian Wakeford, is seemingly inspiring other Tories to follow a similar red path.
Yeah, rumours are abuzz that the Labour Party is in talks with some red wall Tory MPs about similar defections as a Tory rebellion against Boris Johnson swells.
Let's talk to political commentator and friend of the channel, Dr. John Coulter. Good to see you this morning, John. I mean, look, do you believe this talk of more people wanting to cross the floor? Or is this just a bit of spin at the moment?
Well, good morning, Anne. Good morning, Stephen. I would say it is a bit of Labour spin from my point of view. I thought it was rather unusual for Christian Wakeford to jump ship, saying from the point of view of he had a problem with the Prime Minister. Could he not have used all the internal methods of the Conservative Party before he jumped ship? I think that I feel very strongly from the point of view of whenever an MP defects like this here. I know that we have legislation to trigger by-elections on the death of an MP or the resignation of an MP, such as Owen Paterson. But I think that defections should be added to the laws that trigger a mandatory by-election. Think of it in terms of all those Tory workers and voters in Bury South who campaigned really, really hard to get a Tory MP in 2019. Because after all, this seat was Labour for many, many years since 1997. And all of a sudden, they now have a Labour MP. Look at it from the Labour point of view as well. Is it a case that they now have to poach Tory MPs because internally Labour does not significantly have under Sir Keir Starmer relevant policies that it can sell to the electorate? Look at the internal rifts that it could cause within Labour. I mean, say, for example, in Bury South, they would have been cultivating someone to challenge Mr Wakeford at the next election to try and get that seat back again. It's only a majority of about 402. What frictions will that cause within the Labour Party? So I think all this jumping ship to perhaps give Boris Johnson a so-called bloody nose is moving too soon. I think that basically wait until there's enough letters. If they want to get rid of Boris Johnson, wait until there's enough letters from the 1920 or to the 1922 committee and then make your move rather than defect.
Historically, isn't it true to say that when an MP does cross the floor, as Christian Wakeford did, they never seem to do very well afterwards, do they?
Yes, this is the big worry that Christian Wakeford will have. Yes, he won the seat in 2019, but again, I emphasise, his majority is only 400, so that the Tories will be trying to reorganise themselves to get that seat back again. The other thing that is interesting, this doesn't guarantee two things. It doesn't guarantee that Mr Wakeford will be reselected again as the Labour candidate. It also doesn't guarantee that he will hold the seat from that point of view. So yes, he may have caused a big hullabaloo by crossing the chamber to cheers and jeers from the various benches. But from that point of view, in terms of modern elections, it doesn't guarantee that you'll be re-elected. Now, what I would put an emphasis on here, what he has to look at is his majority and also as well his constituency profile. I'm speaking to you today from Lisburn in Northern Ireland, which is at the heart of the Lagan Valley Westminster constituency. And in 2004, our MP, Sir Geoffrey Donaldson, defected from the Ulster Unionist Party to the Democratic Unionist Party, of which he's leader. Now, he continued to win election after election because he had an impeccable constituency record of helping people on bread and butter issues. So what Mr Wakeford has to do is to ensure that between now and the next election that he builds up a really strong personal profile so that even if Labour voters, traditional Labour voters in Bury South are suspicious of him, that he's a Tory infiltrator, if I could use that term politically, that at least he has that strong personal vote to get him across the line.
No, it's going to be interesting times ahead for him, but to see what the ongoing impact is on government and particularly the Prime Minister, we shall have to see. It's going to be an interesting week, I think. John Coulter, really good to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you. There's a lot of posturing going on, I think, in Westminster at the moment, isn't it? And it's difficult to know how much is real and how much, as you say, is just sort of spin.
Yeah, there's a lot of spin going on, but whether it's enough to unbalance the PM from his pedestal, just don't know. We shall see. Let's run you through the top stories. And the Russian Defence Minister has accepted an invitation to meet the UK Defence Secretary over the situation with Ukraine. Despite offering to meet in London, Ben Wallace will head to Moscow to discuss resolving the conflict between the two countries. Comes after Downing Street warned Russia would be punished if the country pushes ahead with any destabilising action in Ukraine.
US police say the fatal shooting of a 31-year-old British astrophysicist in his bed appeared to be the result of reckless discharge. Dr. Matthew Wilson was found dead after being shot in an apartment block in Georgia whilst visiting his loved ones.
High Street pharmacists will be able to refer obese people to a free online NHS weight loss programme. Previously, you had to see your GP if you're in England before you could access the 12-week course. Those with high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes or a BMI of more than 30 are being encouraged to speak to their pharmacists.
And a new survey suggests that 1 in 3 drivers are unaware of changes to road rules, which are aimed at protecting cyclists and pedestrians. 33% of motorists said they didn't know the highway code is being revamped, including 4% who say they have no intention of looking at the details. The revised highway code comes into force next week.
The majority of Ireland's COVID restrictions have been lifted today. COVID passes no longer required to get entry to hospitality and entertainment outlets, and live events can return to full capacity. The move will also see an 8 p.m. curfew on the hospitality sector being lifted.
And Idris Elba is said to be part of the conversation over who will replace Daniel Craig as the next James Bond. Speaking on a podcast, the film's producer, Barbara Broccoli, recognised that a lot of fans want to see Idris in a tuxedo. Other actors in the running to replace Craig include Tom Hardy, Richard Madden and Henry Cavill.
Interesting views on the highway code. Now, Alan says the DVLA should email you a copy of the highway code every year when you renew your car excise duty. It's a good idea, actually.
Yeah, but it would cost, wouldn't it?
But if you email it, though.
Yes, yeah, true. Simon says, as a pedestrian, cyclist, motorcyclist and car driver, I welcome the changes to the highway code. Car drivers should be given instruction on how to safely manoeuvre past cyclists during their test. Equally, cyclists should be fined for weaving in and out of traffic dangerously or jumping red lights.
Yeah.
It always turns into a war between the driver and the cyclist.
Yeah, it does. Good points, though. Keep them coming through. GB Views at gbnews.uk, and stay with us because we've got plenty more to come, including the latest on the hunt for Everton's new manager.
Good morning. Dry but drab kind of sums up the weekend for most of us. It will be fairly cloudy, but a few places seeing a bit of blue sky. And say most of us are not going to see much rain thanks to high pressure. Now, the main exception to that dry story will be northwest Scotland. There's a weakening weather fronts which will bring at times some rain to particularly the Highlands, Argyll and Bute through the day today. But even that's pushing south, so Caithness, Sutherland and Northern Isles may well brighten up. We'll see some sunny spells across eastern England, eastern Scotland and across the south. There'll be at times some breaks in the clouds, reveal a bit of blue sky, but for most it will just stay cloudy but dry with light winds, certainly across the south. Always quite breezy across the north, but it is here where we'll see the top temperatures, 11, maybe 12 Celsius if we see some brightness, say on the Moray Firth. Elsewhere, a little warmer than yesterday, 8-9 degrees, but of course most of us won't have the sunshine. Through this evening, we'll keep a lot of cloud, which will again help prevent a frost in most places. Where skies stay clear, parts of northeast England, eastern Scotland, again, temperatures could at least for a time drop down to freezing. Still a brisk breeze in the northwest and a bit of drizzly rain here, but for most it stays dry. And again, as I said, temperatures generally holding up, certainly in towns and cities, a few degrees above zero. On to Sunday, and it's a very similar story to Saturday. Again, some drizzle likely in the northwest during tomorrow, but apart from that, and maybe the odd spot over hills elsewhere, most places dry and cloudy. But again, some breaks likely in the cloud, parts of northeast Wales, northeast England, and again, northeast Scotland may well see some sunny spells. And if we do, temperatures again could get to double digits, but for most we're looking at 8 or 9 Celsius. This area of high pressure is sticking around through the weekend and indeed into next week. Again, weather fronts may bring some patchy rain at times, particularly to the northwest, but for most, this area of high pressure promising to keep more dry weather across the country well into next week.
Hello there, I'm Eamon.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
(9:26). Good morning to you. This is Breakfast with Stephen and Anne. If you're watching us on TV, good morning. If you're listening to us on the radio, good morning.
Or if you're watching us on YouTube from Johannesburg, like Lee is, then... Yeah, it's nice to be with you, actually. He said, got to echo all the positive feedback you've been having this morning. Switched to GB News before you and unjoined, but you two are now essential viewing for me. Oh. Great show, and I agree that David Hamilton needs to come back. We need more details on his Vegas trip and seeing Dean Martin with only Wise.
Something else, isn't it? Leslie's on the Costa Blanca.
Oh.
Morning, Leslie. Great to see Anne again. She looks amazing.
Oh, thank
Used
you.
to watch her in the 80s.
She's watching from a long distance. That's what does it.
Her and Nick were always entertaining.
Yeah.
Well, never
and
mind.
now partnered with the lovely Stephen, she says.
I'll get a mention
I never watch any of the other news channels. GB News is honest, professional and fun. Keep up the good work.
And
Isn't that lovely?
Lily, watching you and enjoying it from
Lily.
France.
Lily?
Somewhere near Poitiers.
Yeah. Doesn't she know where she is? She just says, I'm somewhere near Poitiers.
Well, I hope you find out where you
Lily.
are, Lily.
Yeah.
But it's lovely to have you all with us this morning. It's nice that people are watching from all around the world as well as just here in the UK, of course. Talk about stuff international, all the international sport, with Aidan McGee. Good morning. Though I don't know if we're kicking off with anything international, are we?
Not necessarily. It's the Premier League is an international event these days. I mean, Everton's searching for a manager. I mean, you're going to have people watching that from far and wide. I used to watch Anne in the 80s as well.
Oh, I know. God, make me feel old. I get people saying, I used to be able to watch you if I'd done my homework the night before. Thank you very much.
Oh, I love that. Fantastic. But no.
By the way, I love the V-neck with the jacket.
Do you?
Really nice.
Oh, thanks very much. Cheers. Yeah. And I'll do it saying that on air as well. It's amazing. It cost me a few quid. But you know what happens? You pay the full price and it comes down in price a month later.
Yeah, but it looks a bit classy. So
thanks very much indeed.
Right.
Appreciate that. Anyway, Everton. Let's move on to Everton. Listen, lots of different angles to this story. You've had Aston Villa going to Everton today. Now, their manager, Steven Gerrard, has said about Rafa Benitez, who just left Everton. He said, why on earth did you take that job? It doesn't work. You know, when you go to a rival club, even if there's been 10 years distance, it doesn't work. And that's exactly what happened. You've got Duncan Ferguson in charge for the game today. He's come out and said, well, he was asked in a press conference yesterday, have you reminded or have you made it clear to the current group of players what it means to play for Everton? And he said, I have now, as in I gave him a real good dressing down.
Why doesn't it work?
Why doesn't it work? Because it's not like normal commercial dynamics involved here. So if a CEO goes from Superdrug to Boots, no one really knows about it. But when football is concerned, you're looking at emotions, you're looking at feelings. Everton fans probably resent the success that Rafa Benitez has. Didn't help him as well in 2006. I mean, it's a while ago. Didn't help in 2006. He called Everton, prior to a Liverpool-Everton game, he called Everton a small club. And people remember that. Fans are accused of having short memories. They've often got long memories as well. So it doesn't work in that regard. I don't understand why owners put these managers... It's foreign owners. I don't really get it sometimes. I don't think the Everton owner... Farhad Moshiri really understood that you can't just shift a successful guy in one environment and put him into another. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't even work in everyday life all the time, does it? Certain environments, certain conditions, some people do well, some people don't. Wayne Rooney is now the favourite, talking about emotional. Now, he's had 2 spells at Everton. He came through the system at Everton. He's a legendary Everton player. He's fancied to be the favourite, really, to take over that job, although there are 1 or 2 other considerations as well, including Frank Lampard and Fabio Cannavaro.
Right. Oh, well, we shall see. Because he's probably quite keen to... Adele be quite keen to get him out of Pride Park.
Oh, no way. I mean, he's had
a bit of controversy, though, hasn't he?
Well, there's been controversy. Yeah, there has at the start of the season, but it wasn't football-related. He's done a magnificent job. He really has. I mean, they had I think it was a 20-point deduction at the start of the season, so a huge handicap at the start. He's put them in contention within striking distance of finishing above the bottom 3. If they stay up, and they've got existential problems at the moment, Derby County, they're in a huge mess off the field in terms of their ownership. But Wayne Rooney is doing his best, not single-handedly. He's got some decent players there, but he's looking at... They could move... The reason he might move is, obviously you take a Premier League job over a side at the bottom of the Championship any day of the week. But, I mean, QPR are looking to sign their best player, Tom Lawrence. So if having built up a head of steam and you lose your best players, it makes staying up that little bit more difficult. But even so, I think that these managers, they have a short shelf life, as Anne and I discussed last week. If your Premier League club comes knocking, especially one you have a historical attachment to, you go.
Talk about trying to stay up. What about this relegation battle between Norwich and Watford?
Yeah, I mean, it was huge last night. I mean, I went to university in Norwich. I've covered them many, many times down the years, as I have Watford. I've been ritually criticising them every week because for not being good enough. But say what you like, they went to Watford last night. They haven't won an away game in the Premier League for well over 2 years. And they go and win 3-0 at Watford last night in a pressure game. They've given themselves a chance because they've taken themselves out of the bottom 3, 22 points now. Burnley have got 5 games in hand on Norwich. That's how ridiculous the COVID schedule has reflected the homogeneity of all the... Well, it's basically forced a load of discrepancies in terms of the games played. It's not good for the competition. But, yeah, they've given themselves a fighting chance. I'm sure their new manager will stick 2 fingers up to me at the end of the season if they stay up.
I'm sure he will. Can we have it on camera if that's the case? Quick word on the Six Nations. No Owen Farrell?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I was talking to someone offset earlier on, and it might be a blessing in disguise. Eddie Jones doesn't appear to trust the guy who might replace him, Marcus Smith. The match, or the event, kicks off in 2 weeks' time, and there are shades of kind of... Owen Farrell is the captain. He's very experienced. Everyone knows who he is. You can build a team around him. Eddie Jones likes him, but the shades of... Remember Beckham and Rooney getting injured prior to World Cups? They're almost kind of shoehorning him into the team. It sounds like it is that's the case here. I think the absence of Owen Farrell might actually give England some opportunities of just adapting their squad and maybe doing better than we think they might do.
Interesting stuff. Aidan, thank you. If you can leave some notes on style guidance for clothes for maybe...
Who have you ever met? Famous... Who's actually made, the hair on the back of your neck stand on end?
I'll be honest, I didn't vote for him, but in 1995 I met Tony Blair.
Oh, yeah.
And he came to Chatham, which is where I grew up, and we got on the front page of the... I got on the front page because I was the only one who criticised him, and the paper was obviously a little bit Tory.
Oh, my goodness.
But I've got a picture of him. I'm wearing glasses, I've got curtains, I'm wearing a silly rugby shirt. But he was great. He wished me good luck in my A-levels. Not that it did much good. And that
so
evening...
you got that little tingle, did you?
Without doubt. I mean, I was in sixth form. I was in the common room. Someone said, Tony Blair's in town. We just rushed into town to see him. And he arrived on a train with his entourage. And he wasn't as famous then as he would be 3 years or 2 years later when he became... But I think it was exactly 2 years later he won the election that night in 97 with a landslide majority, 142, I think it was.
Cool. Yeah. I was sat down at a table with Jamie Redknapp the other day.
Oh, that's nice as well, isn't it?
Mick Hucknall was interesting as well, yeah. He was talking about how he was fearful of Manchester United playing Arsenal.
Right.
So we had the headline next day, Simply Dread.
Oh, very good, very good.
Very good.
Something got me started, eh?
Yeah, well, we were talking about this because I was asking you if you've met somebody that just you thought, wow, I've met them. And Lee said, my husband Tony met Margaret Thatcher when she was Prime Minister. He was a serving police officer and she agreed to an off-the-cuff meeting with him to sign a gift for a charitable event. She was wonderful, engaging and spent quite some time wanting to hear about the young boy he was raising funds for.
Oh,
so you see, that was nice.
Nice. Kirby says, I met Norman Wisdom a few times on the Isle of Man because he lived there. A wonderful, naturally funny, adorable gentleman.
Yeah, so we've still got time. If you've met somebody who knocked your socks off, then get in touch. gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Stay with us, though. We've got plenty more still to come, including the very latest showbiz news and the story of a dog rescued by a sausage.
And a drone.
Hello there, I'm Eamon.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
Oh, this morning is zipping by quite quickly.
It has nearly zipped by already because it's 9:37 already.
Yeah, this is Breakfast with Stephen and Anne on your TV and on your radio for you today.
So, shall we take you through today's front pages of the newspapers? The Times writes that Prime Minister Boris Johnson has reinstated his Tory leadership team to save his premiership, as fears grow that a no-confidence vote is inevitable.
Well, the Prime Minister facing calls to ensure that all evidence on the Downing Street parties is published alongside the results of Sue Gray's inquiry. That's on the front of The Guardian today.
Meanwhile, the Daily Express reports a wonder pill that fights both coronavirus and flu, and they say it could be the next exciting secret weapon in the war on viruses.
The iWeekend says the government is actively considering a pause to mandatory coronavirus vaccines for NHS workers because of fears that mass sackings will damage patient care.
The Daily Mail reports that MPs and business leaders have said that a planned hike in national insurance this April must be stopped to help families survive a cost of living crisis.
The Attorney-General is wanting an injunction against the BBC to prevent the broadcaster allegedly identifying a spy working overseas. That's on the front page of The Telegraph today.
And the Daily Mirror pays tribute to what it calls the end of a rock legend. That's after Bat Out of Hell singer Meatloaf died, they say, of coronavirus.
The Daily Star says that hardman Russian President Vladimir Putin has scared off extraterrestrials by being too rough.
Yeah, we don't really understand that, but there you go.
No.
No. And the Financial Times Weekend reports that Netflix lost £35 billion in value on Wall Street's opening bell. which must have been a bit of a blow.
Yeah, it must have been. They'll make it up again, surely.
Yeah.
Surely.
Now, this is a lovely story.
Go on, you do this one.
Well, it's about a cheeky runaway pup who found himself in deep trouble last week after rising tides stranded it on mud flats, and it was in danger of being engulfed by the waves, and it didn't know where to go or what to do.
Poor little thing. Millie resisted efforts from police, firefighters and Coast Guards, who were all encouraging her to seek higher ground. But there was a solution.
Yeah, after a quick dash to Aldi, locals attached sausages to one of the rescued drones in the hope that the dog would follow her nose to safety. And look! She went after that sausage.
Oh.
See, it goes back for her. That's a drone dragging a sausage. And she's sitting, she's thinking, what the heck's going on? But in the end, she was able to get out of danger, basically.
Yeah. 4 days out in the wild.
I know. I mean, they were worried that that would be it for her, but it just shows how ingenious some people are, thinking, I know, we've got rescue drones, and if I just nip down to the supermarket, we could get a sausage, 2 together. Solved it all. Shall we talk to the owner of the rescued dog now? Emma Oskes. Emma, are you there? Oh, hello. A very good morning to you. Hi. You'll have to introduce us to everybody, because we've got 2 people either side of the shot as well, and obviously the dog. So who's there?
Colette and Zara from the drone team.
Oh, brilliant! Wow. Oh, well done, then.
Here.
Great ingenuity.
Out of shot.
Oh.
There she is.
Oh, so there's more than one dog there. Yes, we can see Millie, but there are other dogs there. So Millie's the one at the back. So you must have been very frightened at one point that she wasn't going to make it. She would just stand there and perish.
Yes, really scared that we were going to lose her, especially where she was out in the harbour. So it was very scary.
Oh.
What actually happened? How did she get there? Were you out walking her and she just went too far, or what?
No, I was in Pembroke. So my mum was walking her and she just got out of her collar and she ran about 5 miles, I think Langston is, from here.
Oh, wow. Wow. So you drone ladies, I've forgotten your names, I do apologise. The drone operators, what a skilled team you are. Whose idea was it then to come up with the sausages?
Well, it was one of our drone pilots. We're a Denmead Drone Search and Rescue. We just help the community, an extra expertise to help them reunite with any lost dogs. But he came up with the idea of attaching the sausage to the drone. If we couldn't actually reach Millie, it was just to get her to higher ground, just to stop her drowning. And obviously it worked. She grabbed at the sausage and very nearly pulled the drone into the water. But we got her to safety, which was the main thing.
Have you ever done anything like that before?
No. But we may be able to use it again in the future. It was an ingenious idea. But no, I mean, this was a special one with Millie. We were very, very concerned for her safety, and she had been missing for a few days at that point. We tried the kayaks. We'd been out on the kayaks, and the Coast Guards had been out with their mud rescue team. But they couldn't actually reach her. And as I say, we were concerned about her drowning because obviously she was getting weaker. And so this actually did the trick. So, yeah, it was amazing.
Zara, it must be so lovely to have something with such a happy ending.
Oh, it's probably one of the longest rescue attempts that we've actually conducted as a team. And when we got the news through on the Monday morning that actually Millie had been reunited with Emma, we were ecstatic. There wasn't a dry eye amongst the team, even our burly lads. It all brought to their eye as well, because it was just such an emotional rescue with just the most perfect outcome in the end.
I think there's something quintessentially British about this, that so many people came together and then used, your brains to try and figure out how to rescue a poor doggy. I just think that's a most wonderful story. It's reassuring, isn't it, that there is still that sort of British spirit. Thank you so much for a story with a lovely, happy ending.
And there's Millie's tail wagging in the background. Perfect.
Yeah, just see our tail.
Yeah.
Well done, all of you, and bye-bye to Millie and Emma, of course. Bye-bye to all of you. I'm so glad you all joined us.
Yeah, thank you ever so much. Do you know what? Stuff like that is perfect, isn't it?
That's what I mean. It really is sort of British, isn't it? It makes you feel proud.
Yeah, I just love it. Lovely. I just love stuff like that.
Yeah, well done, everybody.
Now, since last summer, GB News has been following the British soldier Jack Jarvis as he embarks on a challenge of rather epic proportions.
Yeah, he's rowing across the Atlantic, taking a route that's never been attempted solo before. And if he does it, he will make it into the Guinness Book of Records, I suppose.
He set off back in December and he's now halfway, very nearly. He's being pushed to his absolute limits, both mentally and physically. But it's something he's doing in memory of his late granddad, who passed away in 2007 from a brain tumour.
Our reporter, Ellie Costello, decided to catch up with him whilst he was out in the middle of the ocean.
Nothing but the bright blue sea. Jack Jarvis is almost halfway on his 4,500 nautical mile challenge across the Atlantic. He's rowing solo, something that's never been done before. He rang me from his satellite phone.
Hi Jack, how are you?
Hello Ellie, yeah, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. This is so weird, you're in the middle of the ocean.
I literally am in the middle of the ocean, yeah.
How is your morale? Where's your mental place right now?
Morale and my mental state is good. Morale's high. Even though, we've had setbacks and it looks like it's going to take a little bit longer, I knew it would be tough. Hence why no one's done it before, so there's no surprises there. But yeah, morale and my mental state is all good.
Jack also recorded this message for us from inside the boat.
Good morning. So day 49, week 7 update. The rowing has been tough this week, but then it's been tough for the past 7 weeks. So I'm going to talk about another challenge I've had to face. Since Christmas, I've been on a biscuit and hazelnut spread ban. What I mean by this is I won't open a new packet or tub until I hit the halfway point. It's basically because I realised, because the voyage was going to take longer than 90 days, I had to ration it, otherwise I was going to run out. So I've had to be really disciplined, which is good, because then the second half of the row I'll have plenty of treats. However, it's taken a lot of mental fortitude not to devour a packet of dark chocolate digestives when you've had a bad day on the oars. It's not all doom and gloom though on Biscuitless Budgie. Managed to grab my second bit of plastic out the ocean. Really happy to collect that bit of rubbish. Jack Jarvis's one-man ocean clean-up continues. Probably saved 10, 20 whales just for that one bit of plastic. David Attenborough, that one's for you, mate. And as always, I'll keep rowing, collecting any rubbish that I can, and I'll see you all soon, hopefully.
Jack is undertaking this challenge to raise money for charity. He's currently raised about £15,000 for Brains Trust, a charity that is really close to his heart.
So happy and proud that I've managed to raise that much for Brains Trust. And like I said, my granddad passed away of a brain tumour, so it's a charity close to my heart, and hopefully I can raise a load more. So the target's 50 grand, so we're well on our way. There's a massive thank you to everyone who's donated. Absolutely blown away by the generosity. So yeah, just a thank you, and looking forward to seeing everyone when I'm back home.
Ellie Costello, GB News.
What an astonishing thing to do.
Crackers. Well.
Crackers, but how brave. Can you imagine being in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean? It's just you and your rowing boat.
Oh, it's terrifying.
Terrifying.
It's the stuff of nightmares, frankly, as is Stephanie Tetchy. No, that's so untrue.
I thought I was your dream.
You
girl,
are.
Stephen.
It's always a dream to see you. Miss Showbiz herself.
Yes, I am.
What have you got for us? Just put out, if you're on the radio this morning, Stephanie's got the most incredible necklace.
It's a Cleopatra necklace.
Yeah, it comes out every few months. I was like, today is the day it's going to come
Oh,
out.
yeah.
Stephen and Anne.
Yeah,
I was
we
actually
appreciate
inspired by
that.
Anne's necklaces this morning.
Oh, they're very...
Yes, yeah. Well, this is hopeless for people listening on the radio, but we're wearing very glam necklaces.
Yes,
very glam.
we
They're
are.
very glam. I feel like a pauper in comparison. What should we kick off with, Stephanie? A bit of Adele.
Let's talk about Adele, because that's all everyone's talking about in showbiz. Obviously, she's pulled the plug on her 24-date residency at Las Vegas. A lot of fans have been vocal and said how disappointed they are because they've gone to the ends of the earth just to get one night with Adele. Some people have paid up to £20,000. I seriously cannot believe that figure.
And the odd thing is that she has cancelled the whole thing. She said it ain't ready yet. But it's not as if she's putting it off for a week.
No, and, you know, in today's papers, there's been talks that it might not be rescheduled until June or maybe even next year, because she's a busy woman. She's got the Brits next month. She's got 2 shows at Hyde Park, plus other commitments. So it's going to be full on, you know, how is she going to be able to fit these 24 dates? And, you know, with all this drama she's talking about that's going on, is it going to be able to be sorted out in a few weeks or months? Who knows? And also, Las Vegas is a hot prime ticket place for people to perform. We've got Rod Stewart performing, we've got Sting performing. They're not going to say, we're not going to give up our dates for Adele to fit back in, so it's going to be quite difficult.
So it's 12 million quid she's lost with that.
Yeah, and, you know, per show, she would have been making up to £500,000 per show, so it's definitely going to dent her bank account, even though we know Adele's quite well off anyway, but...
Oh, to be minted.
But is it at Caesar's Palace?
Yes.
I mean, they're going to be a bit miffed about the fact that they've lost a great attraction.
Well, they must have known it was coming. I think this is why a lot of people are quite annoyed, because they're like, if you've been having all this drama going on behind the scenes, at least from a month ago, you must have seen this was coming. It shouldn't have all escalated within the weeks. Like Celine Dion, she's had health issues and she said she's had to cancel it, but she's given her fans months worth of notice.
Yeah. OK, can we go from someone who's having a rough time to someone who hopefully may be having a better one?
Yeah.
Which is Mr. Idris Elba.
Woo, woo, woo. Mr. Idris Elba. So for years, it's always been about, is he going to be Bond? And he's always said, no, I'm not going to be Bond. The makers of Bond have always denied it. Then finally, in a podcast, Barbara Broccoli, who is the producer of the 007 film, she's done The Last 9 with her brother, Michael G. Wilson. She's confirmed that he's in the
conversation.
He's in the conversation.
Good.
He's in the conversation to be 007, and it's quite interesting.
If she said that, that means they are in serious talks.
It does mean, and you know what? Because I think a lot of fans have been saying, Idris, put him forward for it, because there's been other names like Henry Cavill, Tom Hardy, but it seems like Idris is the one that's shining through. But let's not miss the elephant in the room. There has been, you know, I was even snooping on GB's Instagram, and a lot of people saying he's a bit too old to play 007.
Oh, I don't think so.
He's only 49.
Oh, is
and,
he?
you know, Daniel Craig...
Outrageous.
I know, and Daniel Craig is 53. So they're like, get someone younger. I was reading the comments, and I was like, that is interesting. Maybe it's time to get a younger Bond. But also, Idris has always discussed that he's black, and he's found that a lot of 007 fans have said, actually, Ian Fleming did not say that this character should be black. So he's always felt a bit disheartened.
I wonder if because that was a big argument at the time.
Yeah.
But then we also had the whole thing with Daniel Craig about blonde Bond.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't that ridiculous when it comes to hair colour?
It doesn't.
Has the black argument has that passed somewhat? It's like to me it doesn't seem like it's even in the conversation now.
Well, I don't think it's in the conversation, but it's in the fans' conversation, and I think that's what's always been off-putting for Idris in the role.
Well, I just wouldn't want to be seen to be taking it because they suddenly realise they want a black Bond.
Yeah.
He wouldn't want that. On the other hand, if he's obviously in the conversation with them, which means he quite fancies it now.
And you know what? And I think Idris is very comfortable in Hollywood and with such roles like we've seen him with Luther and stuff. So there's, you know, beyond his skin colour, I think he could do the role justice.
The nice thing is it wouldn't seem like a woke decision, would it?
That's
it
right.
just seems like
Because he is such a star.
He's just the best actor for the job.
Definitely, and that's what it should be. Always it should be about the talent. And we've seen, as we've discussed before, there's so many roles at the moment going on where Hollywood is just turning things around. Men are playing women, women are playing men. Everyone's just fitting into different places that, you know, necessarily they wouldn't have been before.
Oh, I think he'd be lovely as Bond.
Oh,
he might be worth watching.
He could be my 007 any day. He could be my 007 any day.
I feel like I'm going to... You two drooling next to me. I'm stuck in the middle. Blumming neck. How we go from that to Wallace and Gromit, I'm not entirely sure.
That's like from Hollywood.
What are they doing?
There's going to be a new film, a Wallace and Gromit film. So BBC producers have confirmed that in 2024 we're going to get a Christmas special of Wallace and Gromit coming to us.
Who's going to voice it though? Because it was Cleggy, wasn't it? Out of Last of the Summer Wine.
Yes, it was,
Who died.
So they haven't mentioned who's going to be voicing what, but they said it's going to be a nice continuation incarnation of the series. We're going to see Wallace being obsessed with his inventions, but he's going to be creating a new gnome, which is going to have a mind of its own, which is going to be scandalous. But bosses said it's quite a feel-good film to have for people.
Well, that'd be nice for Christmas, won't it? It really will.
Yeah, but we've got a long wait. We've got another 2 years to wait. But there's something else which has popped up. Just when we thought we were finished with all the Princess Diana films, there's been talk since the Sundance Film Festival that there's another Diana documentary coming out. The Americans have been loving it. But British people are saying it's a bit too much.
Yes.
Can we be done with the Diana stories?
Yeah. I mean, how many times does it
Leave her alone, I think.
I know. I feel like they're just raking in the cash unnecessarily.
Have you ever met somebody famous who it makes you tingle? You think, oh, I can't believe I've met them.
Dame Judi Dench.
Oh,
good. Like that. I met her at the BAFTAs a few years ago, and I never get starstruck, but I did, and I was like, can she just be my grandma, please? Because she was so sweet, and obviously she's a showbiz legend, and I like those old school showbiz.
See, we always say I never get starstruck, but there are occasionally
the odd one.
do.
The odd one. Well, you've been beaten by Nort, who's got in touch, Morning Nort, who says, I met a wonderful TV presenter in the late 70s in a pizzeria in central Birmingham. She was lovely, charming, and went on to present breakfast TV in the early days. I think she now presents breakfast on GBNews at the weekend.
In a pizzeria. I fancy a pizza right now. Good morning, Nort.
Me too.
Mike says, back in the 80s, I was on Blankety Blank with Les Dawson as host. What a great man he was. Some of the guest stars were Simon Bates, Tessa Sanderson, Arlene Phillips. Had a wonderful time. Coming out of TV Centre, coming towards us was Paul McCartney. He saw my Blankety Blank checkbook and pen, came over and said he loved the show and then signed it for me.
Oh, nice.
Isn't that lovely?
And Kevin met Robbie Coltrane many moons ago. I was working at Marina where his boat was being built, and he rocked up in a pink Cadillac.
See, there's always someone who gives you that pinch-me moment, isn't there? That's lovely.
It's nice, as long as you meet them and they're nice.
And they're nice.
That's
I
what
did
you need.
once meet somebody who wasn't.
Oh,
I'll tell you that in a few minutes' time.
Yeah. OK. Esther and Philip are up next. Thanks for being with us today.
Good morning. Dry but drab kind of sums up the weekend for most of us. It will be fairly cloudy, but a few places seeing a bit of blue sky. And say most of us are not going to see much rain thanks to high pressure. Now, the main exception to that dry story will be northwest Scotland. There's a weakening weather fronts which will bring at times some rain to particularly the Highlands, Argyll and Bute through the day today. But even that's pushing south, so Caithness, Sutherland and Northern Isles may well brighten up. We'll see some sunny spells across eastern England, eastern Scotland and across the south. There'll be at times some breaks in the cloud to reveal a bit of blue sky, but for most it will just stay cloudy but dry with light winds, certainly across the south. Always quite breezy across the north, but it is here where we'll see the top temperatures, 11, maybe 12 Celsius if we see some brightness, say on the Moray Firth. Elsewhere, a little warmer than yesterday, 8, 9 degrees, but of course